Dang.
It hasn't even been 5 seconds.
I know.
We're men, and we're not afraid to say that we love other men.
What up, G?
My life is nothing I thought it should be and everything I was worried it would become, because for 50 seconds I thought there was monsters on the world.
What Augean stable of misery do you live in if you fantasize about driving a bus or sitting on a bench? What's next, a breakfast eating simulator? Oh, careful not to burn your digital toast. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go play an office simulator. Oh, no wait, that's my job.
Whoa, I think I just figured something out, Beavis. What? This sucks. Yeah, it really sucks. This sucks more than anything that has ever sucked before.
Say no for an answer. There's no
Can I see more white women getting clotheslined, please?
People don't understand. People don't understand. People like me. Cause these eyes can see right through you. Don't be surprised.
So Snoop Dogg wins the match because Shane McMahon blew his knee out.
Damn, that was bad, bro.
People don't understand. People don't understand. No, people don't understand. People don't understand. No, people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
Hello, everyone. We're back here for episode 103 of the Barroom Podcast. I'm joined tonight with a group of people you guys probably should know by now if you've been here long enough. Let's go ahead and introduce our good buddies, Mr. Roberto Mato. How you doing today, Robert?
Oh, just great. Movies are in the tank. They're making us argue about the WNBA. There's really nothing going on pop culture wise right now, and it's terrible. So we got 3 months to get through this fucking summer. Let's go.
Oh, it's going to be a long one. This WNBA story is not going anywhere whatsoever. They're going to break the wheel of that girl by the time this whole thing is over. But also joining us tonight, someone who is not named Heather, but might as well be, a good buddy, Nerdigans. How you doing today, Nerdigans?
I'm doing okay. I'm hoping my cat is not going to be fussy. He's meowing at me already, and he's eyeing my PlayStation, which is not good. Oh, God. Cat, get down from there. Bad key. Bad.
I have a reaction for that, but I'm not going to play it right now because there's actually a story into why I'm not playing it just yet. But I just had the same reaction Orange Hat did. Orange, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good.
Oh, wording.
Trying not
people.
to. Trying not to say what I was.
We are here live tonight on Rumble, on YouTube, and on Twitter X, I don't know, or on a bunch of platforms right now. But joining us over on our Rumble page, our good buddy Keith is joining us over there, listening to the show. Also, we have a bunch of people trickling in as the show goes on. Leslie Tarkin was the first one here, saying "Hail to all you lovely people." Top Dog is also here, beating Neozoic to the question portion of this. It says, "What form of physical media do you think is better, DVD or Blu-ray? I prefer DVD, but both are pretty interesting streaming." Well, I mean, at this point, the only real difference is that they pack all the quote-unquote features into Blu-ray now as an incentive to buy Blu-ray over DVD so they can get more money out of you. So, I mean, I guess Blu-ray is my choice here. Is anyone old enough to remember HD DVD? Remember that
Oh,
whole
yeah.
thing
Oh God,
flopped?
I remember that.
When they were having the competition, was it Sony? And then I don't remember who
And
was behind
Xbox had it.
Yeah,
that was
I don't know if
during
it's
my console
Toshiba or
wars.
who it was,
Yeah,
but
it was Toshiba.
Yeah, they had a conversation like a cat has a conversation with a dog. Like, let's be very clear, that ended very, very quickly.
But the thing that I've noticed with Blu-rays, though, you got to be careful because some Blu-rays, there's missing content from them. Like I've heard that the Friends Blu-rays, there's some missing features that are on the DVD set.
Well, that's what they like to say. Well, we already got your money, so.
Yeah, there are definitely like little caveats there where you might want to research it before you spend $80 on a TV set like that. You know, all the seasons, the entire series. But largely, Blu-ray has every advantage over DVD. Maybe they're more expensive to produce. You know, if you're like buying them in bulk or something, but it's better audio, it's better visuals. You know, especially now, like they're still producing Blu-rays of older movies that look fantastic. So, and I think DVDs are going to have a long shelf life because of, you know, TVs getting better and upscaling and things like that. So, you know, to me at this point, it's just some movies are so old they don't get produced into Blu-ray. So DVD is your only option.
But something I've been hearing, and it's making a comeback, is Laserdisc. Laserdiscs are starting to make a comeback.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it's more of a
things are
niche
starting to
thing.
come back. Yeah,
just because Laserdiscs are so big, they're like, you know, it's like a record. But I would have been a Laserdisc collector before DVD if I was, you know, if I was an adult and into the best picture possible. But now with 4K Blu-rays, which just look great on, again, every new year of TVs that come out, it just, the picture gets better and better. But it's also getting to the point where normies can't really tell the difference. So it's like, okay, how much better can you really get the picture, you know, and how much are people going to be able to notice? So
who else do we got here? Marie said that he enjoys a lot of DVDs and Blu-ray DVDs. Eddie Brock joining us here, saying that he has a sweet collection of laser discs, a superior format. Who else here? Kenny P. Laser disc.
Oh,
okay.
I thought you said dicks. It's like, dude,
I might as well have.
Sounds like something out of James Bond.
We're running wild with innuendos here. We're not even 10 minutes into the show. Kenny P here saying missed the menu with special feature DVD, Blu-ray superior overall with the 4D. I haven't the 4K. I should say I haven't gotten the whole 4K craze yet. Because I mean, I guess technically my TV is 4K. Like I could have it if I wanted to, but I just don't see the fundamental point in spending that much money on movies that, let's be very honest, probably aren't that very good to begin with. So
funny thing, Godzilla -1 came out. And minus color on digital format, you can get the colored version in 4K. In the minus color, the black and white, you can't get it in 4K. You can only get it in HDX, which is one below 4K. So it's like, interesting. But, yeah,
Neozoic. Neozoic is here, and I gotta say with Neozoic, he's really assuming that us millennials here, quote unquote, really have watched tons of movies that are in the 1950s. Now, I know me and Rob are kind of the exceptions to the rule because we're the film buffs, but so he asks us the question: which film would you rather watch, Singing in the Rain, 1952, or Seven Brides and Seven Brothers? By the way, I'm glad you asked this question before Rick showed up, but which one would you go with here?
I guess Singing in the Rain. I mean, I'm not a big fan of musicals anyway, so but I've at least seen that one. I haven't seen Seven Brides or Seven Brothers, which sounds like it would be painstaking to sit through. But yeah, just so yeah, I'll just go with Singing in the Rain. It's a classic.
I think I've seen Seven Brides and Seven Brothers. I think I have. But honestly, I haven't seen Singing in the Rain though. But honestly, my favorite from the 50s is like Arsenic and Old Lace. So yeah.
And I guess I can shoot these two questions over to Rob here because Neil's asking us for our favorite Jerry Goldsmith and our favorite John Williams soundtrack. So I'll let you handle this question.
There's so many. Here's the thing: Jerry Goldsmith did so many scores, but my two favorite are Chinatown and L.A. Confidential, which of course and if you think about it, at least in a spiritual sense, L.A. Confidential is kind of a spiritual sequel to Chinatown. So it's very fitting that he got to do both of those. But and then John Williams, I mean, the guy has done so much work, and I'm probably unfamiliar with his direct involvement, but I'll just go with Raiders of the Lost Ark.
When it comes to Jerry Goldsmith, for me, Rambo is definitely one that comes to mind. The original First Blood. It just really does a good job at being for me, a score has to give you an emotional reaction. If you can identify with the emotional tie-in to what the score is trying to do, it works. One of the things, or as for John Williams, as much as I am a Star Wars fan, as much as I love a lot of his Star Wars stuff, honestly, his 70s Superman sound or his Superman theme from the 70s is god tier as far as I am concerned. The beginning just really, it lets you know that you're in for a very emotional adventure.
Who else do we have here tonight? We have Vanya joining us here saying hello to all you lovely people. I want to make sure we get everybody else. Doba Fett say hey to you earlier. Who else do I got here? DK obviously says just turned off NXT. They turned Wendy Cho into another dark side crap. Yeah, go back to that episode that me and TWRP did a few weeks ago, and just ask yourself, why is it that everyone's doing a witch gimmick right now? It's like how many do you need on one show? Alex versus Evil, shout out to you. Who else do we got going on here? We gave a shout out to Eddie Brock earlier today. Kenny P, Top Dog, obviously. Who else we got here? Says Laserdisc audio is still popular. Many use the musing software to combine the tracks with the 4K Blu-ray video transfer. That sounds like a lot of work, but I mean, if you can make it worth it for you, I'd say.
They actually They actually, fun fact, the original negatives for the original Gojira were destroyed in the last few years when they finally converted the movie to 4K digital. They ended up accidentally destroying the film.
Nice, smooth. Someone probably should deserve to get fired, but probably won't be. They
should be nuked for that shit. But oh wait, that's Japan. Sorry,
wrong Asian country.
Yeah.
Goldsmith says that 10 Days Chinatown score. Also goes Temple of Doom had a better score than Raiders of the Lost Ark. Leslie, I think, agrees with that one. Who else do we got here? Then Maurice
Rambo First
saying
Blood,
that any movies from the 2000s try to own on DVD. You really can't find the movies in the 80s or 90s on the DVD unless they're limited edition. Yeah, because most of them at that time came out in VHS. So unless it comes out like a very special, like limited edition, then yeah, it's hard to get some of those older ones on DVD.
Aliens, Terminator 2.
Well, I mean, obviously the biggest movies of that era are going to be on.
Cameron's works definitely went in or got their DVD releases.
Yeah, good luck getting like The Parent Trap or like what was that terrible movie with Jamie Lee Curtis and what was it Jennifer Love Hewitt that we ended up watching like a year ago?
Heartbreakers? Is that what you're talking about?
No. It was the one where the kids locked the parents up in the basement.
Oh yeah,
House Arrest.
House Arrest. Yeah.
I love that movie.
I think you can find most movies on DVD. For me, it's finding it on Blu-ray because I just, I'm a big proponent of having the best like visual copy possible. But I know most people just are pretty satisfied with it. Well, I mean that's the art form. The art form is a visual representation. So yeah, yes,
indeed. I get it.
Calm down, Rob.
Fucking what you do.
It's the visual
Well, it's just
representation of house wrestling.
Kenny,
But no,
I wouldn't buy that movie, but I'm just saying that, if you're going to buy the movie, get the
fair
best
enough.
copy.
Leslie, so this is about 20 years ago. I used to have a collection of like VHS tapes. I had about 36 at the time, and then ended up moving across country. And because we were moving by bus, and that was a terrible decision, I ended up losing like overwhelming majority of my collection. Now I will say this. A lot of this stuff that I ended up gaining, I have in like digital copies now, so it's not like that big of a loss, but there were like a handful of things that I haven't been able to recover yet. Pretty much anything that was on like a Paramount network, where it was like Nickelodeon, MTV, and all that stuff, because they continued to hold that in the vault. Like I lost all that, but I pretty much regained a lot of it and have added a lot more. So I mean,
well, the thing is though, something I've been seeing, because I've been watching a lot of like thrift shop hunting videos. I've been obsessed with them lately. A lot of the like old videos, like from Nickelodeon and stuff like that, they're popping up in thrift shops for like under $2.
Yeah. I mean, if you really, really want like that physical stuff, I mean, you can find it on, I know eBay has a great collection of stuff like that, like say Amazon thrift stores. Now, especially since all the like the big box stores are getting rid of all their physical media, I mean, you're only going to be able to find stuff like that in thrift stores.
Or flea
and, like,
markets
Goodwill
too.
Yeah,
flea markets is
like
probably your best bet if there's a really good one nearby. Because you can get like a whole bunch of movies for like $10 or for $1 or something like that, like $5 for $1 in some cases if you're lucky.
The stuff that's not available, a lot of it is Disney related. Touchstone Pictures, Hollywood Pictures, Disney themselves, and then you have Miramax. Miramax was owned by Disney during the 90s, and of course they went defunct because of the whole Harvey Weinstein thing. They had to sell off the rights to their movies to Sony, to MGM, to a few different places. So, like for instance, there's a lot of us still waiting for Quentin Tarantino's movies to come to 4K. Kill Bill movies, Jackie Brown, etc. So that's part of it too, is just the licensing agreements and legal aspects.
I mean, one good thing about buying like movies at like thrift stores, because I mean, most thrift stores are owned by boomers anyway, and they don't know the value of any of these films, so you can get really great deals if you go to the right one.
Starting to catch up to that, to the eBay stuff, so they're starting to get a little bit more expensive. But Salvation Army, like you could get VHSs for like 10 cents.
Yeah, like any place. I said Goodwill. Someone mentioned earlier, Goodwill is a good place to go to as well. Before we get started here, I wanted to point out something that was hilarious to me that I only just realized like literally 2 minutes before we went live, is that I was editing a review that's probably going to be out for Bounding tomorrow about that I Saw the TV Glow movie. It's a terrible film, but my review is going to be very, very hilarious, way more entertaining than the movie itself. And then as I was looking for a clip to use for the thing, I got the clip that I know, but I didn't realize the headline of the clip until like literally just now. So this is hilarious. So this is some guy called Raw Raw's Hit Post, who has like a lot of like short clips. I didn't even realize that in the clip that I was looking for, he took a shot at me directly over something that I wrote like literally over a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago at this point. So if you go to his YouTube page here, I'll point it up just for the hell of it, because this is absolutely hilarious to me. I was looking for like a Steve Austin clip, and on the title of the clip, it says, "My reaction to Bounding in the Comics review of She-Hulk and Netflix's Resident Evil." I believe I was responsible for both of these, if I'm not mistaken. So he used this clip to take a shot at me, and then he wrote in the tagline here, it says, "I don't like the MCU or any live action Resident Evil films, but I don't like my content, my videos being used by whiny reactionary bitches more." So that's what he wrote under the clip. He posted this like 3 years ago. Literally, the title was 3 years ago. I only just now saw it. And here's the more hilarious part about this. I've been stealing this guy's clips for like 2 years and had no idea that he hated me. So I figured the only way to justify this and make it better is to sit here and play literally every single clip that I've stolen from him over the last couple of years. Here's a couple that I've taken.
I'm the tribal chief around here. Yeah, you see me, the tribal chief. That's right. Beat it. Wash your ass.
Gentlemen, I want you to do me a favor. Remove this cracker from my show.
So there you go. Yeah, the guy wrote that about me in the headline of the video, and I literally just now saw it 3 years after the fact. So I didn't even know I had beat from the guy whose content I was taking. And all I'm gonna say is I'm probably gonna still take more of your content. So especially now that I know it makes you mad. So
if you know what the word reactionary means, it'd be a very funny word to use to describe you. You know what I mean? As if you're someone that it's like,
yeah,
you're going, you know what I mean? Like lashing out at someone who disagrees with you or something. It's like, that descriptor just doesn't fit whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All because of my review of quite literally a what was it? The fucking what blanking on it now. Resident Evil and the She-Hulk series that I wrote like 2 years ago. Like the show's been out already. Everyone hated it. The show stunk. And it obviously wasn't any good because we hadn't seen a season 2 of either one. Like, I think both of them got immediately canceled. So I don't know what his deal is with my reaction to it. But for the record, for that She-Hulk series, I think I was the first ever person in Bounding history to give a 0 out of 10 score to anything. And I gave 0 out of 10 out of 3 of the 9 episodes for that show. So I'm very, very proud of that, by the way.
Simps,
so.
man, I don't know what it is. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I've been dealing with this. I've been dealing with a bunch of Karens and their simp army because I call them out on their bullshit. And you probably are dealing with you've dealt with them for calling She-Hulk out, but I've been getting it the worst.
The thing about it is like he mainly works on like wrestling clips. So I don't even know like the correlation of him. I guess maybe he saw like one of my reviews for an episode I did like 2 years ago and decided to take a shot at me in a wrestling context. Like I don't see the correlation there between modern WWE and She-Hulk. Or maybe I'm just missing something because no, I'm not just a hack fraud. But I just found that very, very funny that apparently.
These people are so stupid. I don't understand. Like, why? Why are you simping for this? There's no point to simp for this show unless they're paying you.
Like, I mean, if you're not even getting money, I mean, that's just sad. But outside of that, let's move on to our first story here because we do got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about here tonight. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of a somewhat breaking story, but it's a story that I covered a while back ago. If you guys look at the GLAAD Studio Index, basically every single year GLAAD comes out and rates all the major film studios about how well their LGBTQ representation is year after year. So all of these studios from Disney to Universal, the Sony and blah, blah, blah gets ratings. After last year's index, the only studio that got a failing rating, according to GLAAD, was Lionsgate. They were the only ones that got a bad grade out of everyone else. I think they only had a 17% inclusion rate, which is basically 1 out of 6 films. That was it. And they were given a failing rate as a result of that. Well, now Lionsgate has officially responded to that by saying that they're now going to utilize a new tool, which they swear it's not AI, but they will be using a new tool to prop up diversity and intersexuality in their upcoming film and television scripts. This is a real story that's come out here. So this woman who you're seeing right here, I don't even remember her name. Let's say here. So this is okay, this would be great. Kamala Avila Salmon, who is the Lionsgate Motion Picture Group head of inclusive content. So let's be very, very real here. She has a fake job. This is not a real job. This is not anything that requires any kind of skill whatsoever. You're just a black woman who's woke, and they hired you to be the face of woke Hollywood. That's really what it comes down to. But during the CAA Amplify event, which is obviously CAA, the biggest Hollywood agency in the business right now, they announced that they're going to develop Story Spark, which is a free online tool that helps creatives and development executives measure diversity and intersexuality in storytelling. The studio describes Story Spark as a filmmaker's first and creative-driven collaborative open-ended development tool, which provides guidance towards telling more inclusive stories. There's no pass or fail grade for each script on this note. The tool is not artificial intelligence, but instead is guided by the creatives and the executives who bring this a story to life. So let's be very clear here. What they're saying is that they're gonna comb through a script, and if you don't have enough like brown people or gay people in the film, they'll force you to change up some characters. That's really what it comes down to here. Story Spark is simple, a friendly, easy to use partner in content development that feels more like a BuzzFeed quiz than a checklist. Oh, that will draw tons of people. That's exactly what I want. I want major Hollywood studios turning their Hollywood scripts into BuzzFeed quizzes. That's the future that we're looking for. This industry is so cooked. Like it's literally in critical condition right now. The way that this whole thing is set up. So, Aaron Westerman, who was named Lionsgate's motion picture group president last year, says that Story Spark is a prompt for important conversations as we intentionally work to make our projects more inclusive. It is up to our storytellers to make our films as ambitious as our goals, and Story Spark is one of the ways that we can help do that. So that's really what this comes down to. Like I said, this is coming from a story that I wrote last year about GLAAD's what is this, their studio index, which is just absolutely just a ridiculous concept in and of itself, but they're doing this because they got a bad grade from GLAAD and they want to improve that. So this is what you were seeing here. This is the story from I think last October, so there's probably going to be another one coming up here in the coming months. And yeah, this was the rating here. Lionsgate was the only one that was getting a failing rating, so this is in direct relation to GLAAD's report. That's all this is coming down to. So yes, more diversity and more intersectionality in movies and television coming forward. By the way, keep in mind, they just pushed back the Ballerina movie, the John Wick movie with Ana de Armas, a full year for reshoots. So that's off to a good start. There's also going to be another Hunger Games movie coming up in the future too. So that should be great as well. And then of course you have The Crow, and I think the only other one that they're pushing at the moment is that Borderlands movie based on the video game. So yeah, that's Lionsgate's slate for at least the next couple of years, and we'll see what other garbage they come out with outside of that. So Rob, I'll start off with you. What is your thoughts on Lionsgate going all in on making GLAAD happy?
Okay, I want to preface this by saying, like, I'm not a fan of any of this, but this has been going on for at least 4 or 5 years, where the Academy is going to change the rules about, movies that get nominated have to have certain number of, whatever, Black, Hispanic, LGBTQ, transgender, whatever characters to qualify for awards. And now you have these weird social grading skill, like framework basically to judge people based on their content, which sounds Soviet, authoritarian, or Orwellian. I mean, it's just, there's nothing that you want in a creative environment. It feels like Soviet state style, like entertainment. It's like, well, you need to have, these themes. You need to be talking about, the greater good and all this nonsense. So, and I mean, this is for gay people, right? So Lionsgate is specialized in genre films. Lionsgate got their start like on American Psycho and the Saw movies and Hostel. You know what I mean? That's who Lionsgate is. I don't know why they would ever be concerned with kowtowing to the gay community when it's like, dude, we make movies where people get hacked up. We make movies, where there's monsters in the closet. We make movies where, you know what I mean? You have this charismatic Wall Street banker who's really a serial killer. Like, it's not serious. It's not anything where you would want to have social change, or, you know what I mean? Even if you view that as a positive thing. So I don't really understand. First of all, this whole thing is asinine and has the feel of, hey, we want to be part of, social change and, progressivism and stuff. But it's like, none of the movies are better because of it. That's the, like, this is where I ultimately land. Like, you can throw cow shit at this stuff all day. And trust me, I love that too. I pushed back at the state of Washington when they were implementing this stuff 5 years ago. And I was like, look, I'm a millennial and I'm telling you right now, this is fucking bullshit and nonsense. I didn't say that because I was at work. But
John Leguizamo, hold on. John Leguizamo said that inclusion and diversity and all that is our strength. He took out a page in the New York Times to say
Full page.
So trust me when I say you can point all that out, and you're right to. But for me, it's like they don't make
insane.
They don't make movies better. And that literally, you don't have to argue anything else. You could literally just say, okay, you're on the 5th Hunger Games movie. I don't actually know what number they're on. You're on Furiosa. You're on all this shit that people don't want and is the 3rd retread of this universe. What are you doing? And then you're going to say, but it's brave and progressive because we have a woman with 3 legs as the hero. So it's like, what are we doing? Echo was a joke. Because it was like, they're really going to do this. They're really going to roll out this piece of shit hero story of this disabled Native American. Like, how many virtue signaling points can you rack up while making the largest piece of shit possible? That's what these people's legacies are at the end of the day. And
I wonder if
I be any better by.
I wonder if our new friend Ray Ray is a fan of Echo, or if he enjoyed Echo Mania. You should, if you're watching this show, you should go back and check out our Echo Mania episodes. We actually had a very good time dissecting that show.
Before I forget, in regards to the Hunger Games, it's the 5th book that's coming out, and it's a prequel that covers Haymitch's Hunger Games era. And I'm actually looking forward to it. I love the Hunger Games books a lot. So,
but it's funny you said prequel because Furiosa was a prequel. It's the 5th one that out of the Mad Max universe, and it's like, okay. And I know the last one was successful. The one with the girl from West Side Story. At
that
the
one
box
I
office.
think that one was a prequel as well for Hunger Games, but I didn't read the book for that one, so I'm not sure. I have to read it to understand, because I know it's during President Snow's era when he was rising to power, if I remember correctly.
No, I think the first one, I'm talking
about the
latest
prequel.
movie. The latest movie, he was barely starting out.
Yeah.
Okay. He was not even like in government yet. He was going through, I guess he was kind of programming the Hunger Games. I don't know. I was
it was like the start. It was the near the very beginning of the Hunger Games, like the end of the war, going into the Hunger Games. I think that's what it was, if I remember correctly. I have to read the book and make sure I'm right on that. But yeah, I'm good. But knowing me, I'm gonna probably reread all the books and then read the new one. I'm a nerd.
Orange, what was your take on Lionsgate bending the knee because they got a bad report card from an activist organization? Nothing.
You asked me that?
Yeah.
Who? What?
Huh? What was the question?
I said, what do you think about Lionsgate bending the knee to GLAAD because they got a bad report card?
You're a bunch of fucking pussies, Lionsgate.
Yes, they are.
Why do I have him on this show?
I don't know. I asked that
because you'll love me.
So.
And from what I've asked the Hispanic community about John Leguizamo because he has Latinx in his Twitter bio. They do not like him. They practically disown him at this point.
You asked the Latin community, but you didn't ask me. I am the
you could if you told me
embodiment. I'm the living embodiment of Hispanic culture.
He played a cross-dresser in like To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything.
And he played Toulouse-Lautrec in Moulin Rouge. Would that qualify as cultural appropriation?
Didn't he also play a clown that shit himself?
Dude, his clown character in Spawn is one of the funniest roles in the 90s. I don't care what anybody says.
It's one of the best roles in the fucking 90s.
Still laugh my ass off when I see that movie.
Same here. I love it. He may be an asshole, but he's got a good clown.
I mean, my thing with John Leguizamo is that he's a complete ass clown. But I mean, I don't hate him. Like he's not as graining. Like to me, it's like people I don't know, like Robert De Niro or like Seth Rogen. He's just he tries to pander so hard to the Hispanic community. It's like I get it. It's like La Raza and I get all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, dude, full page because you're trying to be like this face of I'm single-handedly trying to save Latino representation in Hollywood. It's like, stop. Like you're not nearly as important as you think you are. Just let it go. And that's all I'll have to say about
we
it.
don't need him specifically to be the Hispanic representation. I take Fluffy over John Leguizamo. I must be, I must be honest.
My parents just went to see him. Yeah. Gabriel Iglesias.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's big in El Paso. That's not a joke.
Speaking of all things gay, let's jump over to Star Wars here, because apparently Star Wars is the gayest thing that's ever been on television, according to the showrunners here. And this thing has been gotten like completely torn apart here. And here's the thing: you guys know me by now. I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. I tried to give Disney Star Wars a chance. That was a mistake. And then it's only gotten progressively worse as time goes on. And it feels like that we've been in a position now for 7 years where everyone and their mother realizes that there's a problem with Star Wars, yet Disney just continues to double down. And I'm fully convinced at this point that like Kathleen Kennedy has like a video of like Bob Iger fucking a donkey somewhere in her hard drive, and that's why she's has kept a job here for the last several years. Because after The Last Jedi, did it do half of what The Force Awakens did? It went even lower for that final one. It's like, why are you still in charge of this whole thing? It's very clear what she's doing. She's trying. I mean, she's not trying. She's straight up perverting what was once a male fan base, because that's all they tell you about how male dominated this fan base used to be, and they're trying to turn it female by force, but it's not working because the male audience is not buying into this, and you're not actually gaining a female audience as a result of this either. So you're just losing money. You're losing money and you're wasting time. This whole series was very, very expensive. I believe they said this was $250 million to produce like whatever the hell this stuff was. So Leslie Headland, who, by the way, just in case you guys forgot, was the former assistant of Harvey Weinstein, Mr. Rape You at the 4 seasons, that guy. And now she's the face of, I guess, LGBTQ women's movement because reasons. Routinely walked away from the series believing that this is the gayest piece of Star Wars media ever conceived. And it's funny how, like, in their heads, they say that and they think that it's an absolutely possibly good thing. Yeah, we can quite literally agree that, yes, this is the gayest piece of Star Wars property that has ever existed, and there's no disagreement in the context there whatsoever. They just think that this is positive. It's absolutely not. But as the course of the last couple of weeks has been, you've seen videos of, the stars of this talking about, how excited they are that this is representing the LGBTQ, the non-binary people out there, the lesbians. I know everyone was talking about there was some scene where 2 lesbians give birth to a baby, and they don't explain like how that is. Essentially the same thing they did with Lightyear a couple of years ago, if you guys remember that whole controversy. By the way, that was also Disney, so it seems like Disney has some kind of affinity for lesbians just creating a baby out of dust and not explain you how it happened.
I haven't seen that yet, but
yeah, I'm not missing anything.
They're saying it's supposed to be coming, but we'll see.
Well, at least at least the entire cast isn't pansexual like with Dragon Age.
Well, I mean, most of them are. The lead is. So I mean, this is what we'll get to this here in a second. So Amanda Stenberg, who, by the way, to this day, still have not seen her in one piece of television or movie that I've actually liked to this day. Like everything she's been in, terrible. So it's really no surprise here. But apparently, there's some nerds that are not very gay, that are very threatened by gay stuff, which Stenberg admitted. He said, "Well, that's true, but in my words, nerds are gay." And it's like, well, I can agree with that one for the most part. Offering her actual response here, it's like, no, I don't think so. Yeah, people have been told me that this is the gayest Star Wars. And frankly, she laughed too. It says that I'm into it. So this is like the second that they hired her and then hired the showrunner, like when they start putting the people behind the scenes of this project, I think we all knew that this was coming. But my thing, and this is kind of, I'll shoot it over to Orange Chat here for a second, because there's a couple other points I want to bring up, but they haven't had a Star Wars movie in 5 years, and it's because the interest in Star Wars at this point is so low, they can't even justify spending another $300 million on a Star Wars film because they know they're not going to get that return back because nobody trusts the brand. So they think that by releasing these projects on Disney Plus that are only going to infuriate your fan base even more, that somehow they're gaining one up on the internet who doesn't like stuff like this. It's like, every single thing that they've done over the last several years has just been like hate marketing. It's like, oh, if you don't like this, then you're a bigot. If you don't like The Last Jedi, you hate women. If you don't like, what was that, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show from a couple years ago, you're a racist. Oh, if you don't like this, you don't like gay people. It's like, that's not marketing your show. Like, I'm sorry, you can't just say like, oh, well, our show's gay. Oh, our show is black. Go watch our show. It's like, no. Like, we're living in a time where like I have like 8,000 streaming services that I could watch. What makes you think I'm gonna sit there and waste 9 hours of my life to watch your gay like nonsense? It's like, it's not gonna happen. But Orange, I know you've been sitting on this for a while, so I'll shoot this over to you. What's your thoughts on the Acolyte being the gayest thing that has ever existed in the Star Wars universe? Do you disagree with that statement?
He's muted.
Did you mute yourself?
Muted.
Yeah, sorry. The third episode has not or is airing right now, so I wouldn't know, or I'll have to see whether or not it has gone to the gay side. However, a lot of people forget that this isn't a glass ceiling, folks. What they're doing right now is pushing the LGBTQ agenda more or to overshadow story. Star Wars has always had characters who are gay in the EU. The clones themselves were bisexual. When it comes to there's gay Mandalorians. There are actually non-binary species in Star Wars before Disney ever got a hold of it. Species, though, not humans. But when it comes to all this, it's like you guys are saying or thinking that you are breaking some sort of glass ceiling. But then, or when they're saying, oh, this is the gayest Star Wars, haven't seen it in the first 2 episodes. From what I hear, there's the rumor that the 3rd episode is going to start pushing this shit. So that only says to me that the first 2 episodes were a bait and switch. They're basically giving you some okay quality stuff. It really wasn't objectively.
I mean, I wouldn't even call it, just real quick, I wouldn't even call it a bait and switch. I call it a trap, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're trying to, you're putting out 2 episodes that seem somewhat normal to trick people into thinking that the rest of the series is going to be this, and then you trap them with episode 3 and 4, be like, gotcha, bitch. Like, that's essentially what they're doing.
Exactly. And that is exactly
very Admiral Akbar. Yes.
Yeah. And that's exactly what they're doing. And what I love how they're also saying that, oh, we had 4.8 million views out of 156.3 million total subscribers. So what? That's like 3.125% of your total viewers watched a show that in which 3 people watching the 2-hour or the 2 first episodes equals 4 hours of total watching. So yeah, I can wrap my head around the math. I could do the math. Disney, you're not real. Or if any other business had a yield of 3% and considered that a success, they would be fired. I'm sorry, I'd fire Leslie Headland. But yeah,
I mean, firing Leslie Headland isn't. That firing Leslie Headland, I mean, that's not the real problem. I mean, you got to fire the person who hired Leslie Headland, who should have been fired 7 years ago.
Yeah. Remember what she said?
I completely agree. She should have been.
Well, remember what was said about this show. It was supposed to be a Leslie Headland show. This is a Star Wars show.
As for Leslie Tarkin R2D2, a lesbian thing, it's like, seriously, you're trying to tell me that C-3PO is gay and it's in canon that R2 is a lesbian. There is no fucking book nor canon in Disney or EU that suggests there is any sort of sexuality between C-3PO or R2D2. They're fucking droids. They don't fuck. They simply just bitch at each other all day. They're an old married couple, or they're the old married couple that aren't married. So, yeah, they're not gay. There's nothing whatever
gay robots more than me.
It's Abbott and Costello.
Yeah, I mean, this woman has a sick, twisted mind, mainly because she was forced to suck off Weinstein every other day. So I can understand.
Oh, come
what her mindset
on!
is.
Even Weinstein could get better.
Why do you think she became a lesbian?
Come on.
Even Weinstein would look down on someone like her. It's like, You think
Yeah,
that
you
he's
could
gonna
be my
step down?
assist.
lesbian.
You think that he was
I mean,
gonna step
seriously.
down from Jennifer Lawrence to her?
I
Here's
mean,
the thing.
again, my
Yeah.
point. Why do you think she became a lesbian? It's because
And-
because he made her a lesbian. He was that bad.
Oh,
And
it's
look,
doing the
my-
Malcolm
my-
X approach there, where a woman will become a lesbian if a man rejects her.
It's not so much
Sure.
rejection; it's that he was just
Yeah.
so bad in bed.
Yeah, well, no, that is
Here's-
what the brother minister thought.
Here's the thing. What is this woman created before this? That would be my question, because like I'm all for strong creative voices like being able to being able to express themselves. However, it's like you have to have talent, you have to have skill, you have to have a vision. This just sounds like you're trying to alienate the original audience and create something new, but nobody wants it. Like, who is this for? Who, like, you're alienating your own fan base, you're alienating the people that made your company successful and made Star Wars itself profitable. So again,
Well, here's the
I don't
thing.
know why they would do something
I might
so
want to try to.
self-destructive.
I might try to answer that question, Mr. Motto.
I
I
can't
think
answer
the audience, it's the writers themselves and people who think like them. They're writing for themselves. They're not writing for Star Wars fans at large. They're not probably not even writing for those gay nerds. They're writing for themselves. They're creating fan fiction and making it canon. That's the same thing that's happened with Doctor Who and now at Star Wars. It's basically fan fiction where they're inserting themselves or their ideas about themselves or what they think the world should be like and making it of this
But it's like they're glomming onto something that has already made money, has already been successful, and it's like they're dragging it down with them. So it's like it's almost like these people are parasites. You know, they have to sink their teeth into something existing because they could never create anything cogent, like successful enough on their own to be successful or to be creative.
Well, we've
so
it's almost like
seems
it's almost like a disease that spreads, and then when it spreads, it just slowly kills the host in a very, very particular manner. But
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it's like
cancer.
COVID.
But also, Kathleen Kennedy also did say when she got a hold of Star Wars, I am not going to make the same Star Wars for all those 55-year-old nobodies out there. This is for the new age of people. We are moving Star Wars forward for the more modern audience. Bitch, you don't really understand that you are fucking with a billion-plus fandom. I mean, Star Wars is as big as Tolkien's fans. And I'm just saying.
And like modern audiences, it's sort of just like there's this key scene in the first season of Mad Men where it's just where Don's having to explain to Roger, like, you're acting like these new generation of kids know something. They don't. They're kids. They don't even know that they don't know anything. Like, modern audiences, young people are fucking stupid. They're idiots. What? Like, who cares what they want? And even if you had the research to back up making these changes, they're idiots. Like, they don't know anything. So again, it's like that whenever people use modern audiences, that's like, oh, okay, that's code for it's going to be shit.
Yeah.
Well, who is this modern audience? Really, who are these kids that they're catering this to? You need to. Oh, I keep saying this. You need to know your audience, and
It's an audience that only exists in their head. That's really what it comes down to.
The audience, as I keep saying, it's themselves. They write for themselves. They write for the people who are in their circle, and so they're enjoying the fact that you've got all this massive quote representation. Well, representation is irrelevant if the scripts are not good. It's always going to go back to the story. People look at something like was it not the original Night of the Living Dead? You know what they had? They had representation. It was not often that you had a black character be the lead and be successful. And you know what? That movie is considered one of the greats. I've not seen it, to be fair, but I think it might have even had a Criterion release. But it had very little to do with the fact that the lead character was black. You had representation. You can have representation in the Star Wars universe, but it needs to be backed up by a good script. And if you're just putting out characters just so that people have someone to identify with, what's a guarantee that someone's going to identify with it just because that character
And-
looks like the same like you?
And here's what we've all noticed. Like, this is what we've all noticed at this point. I did mention earlier I did a review for I saw the TV Glow, and that review will be up tomorrow. But it's like here's what you guys are doing. Like, you're putting all these quote diverse characters and actors and directors and writer, whatever the case may be, on front, and then using that to push the movie, because you know that these progressive critics and entertainment executives and people who cover entertainment, you know for a fact that they're not going to come out and actually trash any of this stuff, because they don't want to be seen as being on the same side as their enemy. So they're going to gaslight everyone into thinking that these shows are actually amazing, which is why you go on Rotten Tomatoes and all these episodes have like 90 to 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, with all of the critics raving about how great it is. Why? Because they know that if they say, no, actually this thing is terrible, it's like, oh, well, we have gay people on this show. You don't like gay people? Is that the problem with the show? Then they have to explain to themselves how they're not homophobic, and they have to go through a whole humiliation ritual to stay in the line of credit with their friends. So they lie to you in order to keep their own status. And that's literally what they're doing. They're gaslighting you into thinking that this is actually good. People have seen through this now for many, many years. And we're just at the point now where I don't think a lot of people really truly care. Like, even people have really caught on to like Disney's whole thing of, okay, we're gonna say that, oh, there's a group of people out there who hate us because of insert reason here, and then that's gonna be the marketing for our films. Like, people are even seeing through that now, and it's like, whatever, like, I'm just not even gonna bother like with this whole show anymore. Like I said, I have fundamentally zero interest whatsoever in anything future Star Wars. Like, I just simply do not care. Like, I don't even care to go into watching episode 3 and see how terrible it is. It's like, you know what, I'll just completely blank out on this whole thing altogether. That's where I am at this point. So, way to go, Disney. You just keep hitting the fucking home runs. Way to go. Society says, why are these writers and executives in Hollywood trying to kill cool characters off of movies? Because here's the thing. These people grew up hating these characters because, one, either those characters did not look like them, or two, they didn't feel represented in these shows, which basically means that they couldn't envision themselves in these shows. When they say that no, now this is for everyone. Like, Star Wars was always for everyone. There was no barrier of entry to be a Star Wars fan. What these people are saying is that, well, I didn't see any characters in these movies that looked exactly like me, so I couldn't identify with it because I need to see me on the screen before I can identify with a character. Like, that's narcissism. That's your problem, that you have to see some freckled hair like 5 out of 10 on a television screen that looks exactly like you before you can identify with a Star Wars character. That's a you problem. No one had any problem with identifying with Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, even Darth Vader. No one can even actually see his face. So don't give me that crap. You guys are just narcissists that are trying to ruin everything that's already been established before you. That's what we got here.
And
well, I do want to mention this too.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Because it's mainly these insecure Karens that are doing this. Well,
yeah.
People my mom's age that grew up with the original Star Wars identified with Princess Leia. They loved her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's
as a character, right? Not because of, oh, she looks exactly like me.
No, they just liked seeing like a girl that a strong female character that they could look up to.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I can understand, like, you know, I'm just a snob, so I make fun of Star Wars, even the original movies. But if you can't watch that, if you cannot watch Star Wars, which, you know, very allegorical, very broad in its character base, where it's like, if you can't identify with that, you got a serious fucking problem. That's as basic as it gets for an adventure movie and heroes and villains, and you know what I mean? Like, if you can't get past that because of how someone looks or doesn't look exactly like you, man, first of all, you have media literacy problems where you can't even read into theme and arc and all these other things that play a role. You're fucking lost if you can't identify with Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or Princess Leia on some level.
I identify with all the fucking main characters, including the droids and the Wookiee, and including Leia, and everybody's like, you're fucking weird, dude. It's like, no, I just don't look at the superficial shit.
I can't identify with Luke Skywalker because he's a white man. It's like, well, that's a you problem. You go find a therapist and or Jesus and or both to deal with that problem. Stop shoving it down everybody else's throats. So
you know,
that's all I have to say about that.
I can't get into Wizard of Oz because I just don't. None of the characters look like me. So I have a real problem with that one.
I can identify with the mayor of Munchkinland. I will say that.
Yeah.
I can't identify with the new Little Mermaid one. She doesn't look like me.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, I don't identify with anybody from Games of Thrones because quite literally they're all gay. But, that's fine. I'm not trying to change what you like because, there's nobody in there that looks exactly like me. It's like I'm not sitting up here asking for any overweight black people to be on Game of Thrones so I can be like, oh, that guy looks exactly like me. Now I can watch this show.
You did have a black character in I think the second or third season of Downton Abbey. So you did have someone to identify in this.
Would you please shut the hell up?
I just wonder now that we have the Acolyte, are we ever getting the Star Wars Holiday Special on Disney Plus?
I mean, are two lesbians going to be able to just conjure up a baby during that show? Because otherwise, you're not.
No, but they will have Wookiee porn, so there is that.
That's what we
do. We do have Wookiee porn.
Well, speaking,
R34 exists, but so
we don't need that. Speaking of people who need therapy, let's talk about The Boys. This is another show that I don't watch, but I know it's popular. So it's like I'm not in the bubble where I'm gonna pretend like, oh, this show sucks. It's like it's just not my thing. I don't really care for anything that Seth Rogen is involved in. And if it wasn't for Justice Smith, Seth Rogen would be my least favorite person in Hollywood, like ever. So, but this is a show that's on its final season. They just announced that this last season is going to be it, so there won't be any more show after this. But the showrunner responded to claims that if you watch the show, it's very not so subtly taking shots at like Donald Trump and right wingers and kind of creating this whole this is all about fascist America and everyone who supports Trump and Homelander is Trump and this is all about them. So people finally caught on to this, but I was like, well, yeah, like Seth Rogen is the producer of the show. You guys should have known this from the jump. Like I was not surprised by this at all. But the showrunner, who's his name? Eric. What's his name? What did he pronounce this?
Officer Krupke. Yes.
Krupke. Okay.
I can't believe you have that reference.
Whose crap is going on in the background right now? Is it Nerdigans or Orange Hat?
not me.
Not me.
Okay, so I'm going to yell at Orange Hat here
Not
momentarily, but outside of that,
sorry, my mom's deaf.
Apparently. The showrunner made it clear that he's fully aware of the common criticism the series has gone woke with his messaging. Like I said, I mean, you had a character called Stormfront. I mean, you should how the character who was a Nazi called Stormfront. Like, how on the nose do you have to? When did you guys figure this out? Like I said, I figured this out rather quickly. But he says that he has absolutely zero intention of changing his narrative direction, which means that he's just going to double down, and that's what all these guys are doing. He gave the classic modern Hollywood message: if you don't like it, don't watch it. That's what all these people just love to say. If you don't like what we're doing, then don't watch anything that we're doing. And then we're gonna wonder why in a year that why the box office is down 25% from the previous year. I wonder if there's any correlation. But he went and told the Hollywood Reporter about the upcoming fourth. Okay, I guess the fourth season is the one that's coming up, and then the fifth season will be the final one. So that makes more sense. He says that was playing when Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, which by the way, if you hear those two names attached to a movie, just avoid like all together. There's nothing good that can come out of those two. But it took it out to pitch, and this was 2016. We wanted to do a very realistic superhero, one where superheroes are celebrities behaving badly. Trump was like, he's not really getting the nomination, is he, guy? Then he got elected. We had a metaphor of a guy of that more in the current world. Suddenly we were telling a story about intersection of celebrity and authoritarianism and how social media and the media were used to sell fascism. So basically these guys were sitting in LA and they had a meltdown because Trump got elected, and they decided to write a television show that was subtly about Trump, and then to the point that it wasn't so subtly and everyone caught on to it. So now they're going after the people who followed the patterns. It says, we were in the eye of the storm. It says, once I realized, I felt the obligation that we run in this direction as far as we could. So yeah, they made everything about Trump. That's all he's saying here. It says, not a spoiler, but the first episode of season 4, Homelander is on trial. A big concern is like, can you convict someone that is powerful of a crime? And what does that mean for the various supporters and people who protesting him? And I did that. So I did know that I was coming out during the Trump trial. Of course not. It said we write what we either were scared to or were pissed off about. I very highly doubt that they didn't write the show knowing that the Trump trial was going to happen. I don't think that's coincident at all. But he says that someone asked me last year. It says, "How are you so president with cops and over policing in black neighborhoods?" It's like, well, it's been a problem for over 100 years, but it was a problem 5 years ago, and unfortunately, it's going to be a problem 5 years from now. It's always the same stuff. So that's a little preview of what you can expect in the next episode. It says he finishes by saying that I clearly have a perspective. I'm not shy about putting out an indie show. Anyone who wants to call the show woke or whatever, that's okay. Go watch something else, but I'm certainly not going to pull any punches or apologize for what we've been doing. Some people who watch it think that Homelander is a hero. What do you say about that? He says that the show is many things. Subtle is not one of them. We agree with that. And if the messaging, if that's the messaging that you're getting from it, I just throw up my hand. So he sounds like he's upset that people actually like Homelander as a character, because in his mind, Homelander is Trump and you're supposed to hate him. And the fact that people actually like the character makes him upset. It was like, well, isn't that a conundrum for your creative, your mindset there, that people like the character that you want them to hate? It's like, no one had a problem with Killmonger a few years ago when everyone loved Killmonger, even though he was saying he was going to go to war with white people and their children and enslave all their kids. Everyone loved him, but apparently you're not allowed to love Homelander. There's your double standard right there. Nerdigans, do you watch The Boys? It sounds like this would be a show you would be into. No,
I really don't watch that many Western shows, and The Boys isn't something that I watch. No.
Well, I do want to just point out real quick that the Nazi that played Stormfront in the show was in fact Jewish, so they did get a Jewish woman to play a Nazi, which I thought was mildly amusing.
Every single time.
Yeah, right.
That's fucked up.
Rob, what is your take on what he's saying here?
Yeah, I never watched The Boys because it always came like, it's funny because like I always got a very strong social propaganda vibe from The Boys, which is why I never watched it. Of course, my parents, who are up on more like on TV more than I am, my brother and his girlfriend have watched all of it. It's fine. I knew exactly what it was though when it was coming out, and if you like it, if you think that it's a smart take on superheroes and pop culture and whatever, that's great. I think this kind of shit is way too on the nose. You know what I mean? Where it's like, well, I have a responsibility to, tackle fascism, and it's just like, you sound like an asshole. You sound like a Hollywood idiot who's out of touch with the majority of Americans. So look, if you've made something that people like, hey, whatever. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not interested. But yeah, the art should speak for itself. And if something is satirical and it's like people aren't picking up on it, I don't know. Maybe maybe you didn't do such a great job. I don't know. People are dumb though, so it goes both ways. So I honestly, I don't know. But yeah, it's this is just how it goes with pop culture and media, and some people pick up what you're putting down and other people don't. But hearing him talk about him creating the show and going through the seasons and getting the feedback, and it's just like, okay, I mean, it's somebody who's been moderately successful. It's wrapping up here in the last few seasons, so we probably won't hear from him again unless he does something new.
Yeah, Eddie put it great. You're not supposed to like Darth Vader. Like, that's literally what he's saying there. Rick, what's your talk on the showrunner for The Boys here? Is that something that you've ever watched before?
No, I'm not even sure. Where does this come out in?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime.
Okay, yeah. No. I only order things from Amazon. I'll just say that first, this has happened before with other TV shows and movies. People were, when Norman Lear created All in the Family, people were supposed to hate Archie Bunker. They actually ended up liking him and sometimes even agreeing with him. When Vice premiered, I think, was it Adam McKay? He wrote that speech at the end for Dick Cheney, and we're all supposed to hate Dick Cheney. I understand that some people at the end of Cheney's final speech actually applauded because they actually agreed with him. So don't always assume that people are going to agree with you, the writer. They actually have different points of view. And as for this guy who says, well, if you don't like our show, don't watch, it's interesting. That's pretty much the same thing that the Doctor Who production said when they got this new doctor and they were going to go all in on
It's
the
the
woke.
same thing, to be fair. It's the same thing all of these people have been telling you for the last 10 years. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, ever since they've been selling out to China back in like 2000, like the late 2000s, when they thought that, oh, okay, well, now we can piss off half of the American audience because we're just going to get so much money from China that the Americans aren't going to matter anymore. This has been their message like for years, and now the China money has dried up, and it's like, oh crap, now we have to go back to those same people we spent the last 15 years pissing off. It's like, oh, we'll just double down.
Yes, I mean, when was it Doctor Who? They said they can go touch grass, and that's an expression that I'd not heard of, but that's what they've done. The ratings have gone down. They've been going down for years, and they're not bringing in new audiences. They're alienating old audiences because, again, they're writing for each other and they're writing for themselves. They're not even thinking about the final product. They're only thinking about, how am I going to see myself? How am I going to be able to use my production to promote my particular point of view? What you're basically saying is, I'm making propaganda. That's what it is. It's propaganda that you may agree with or disagree with, but there's no entertainment value in this. So, they don't have to care.
Sucks for them. Orange, what's your take on The Boys?
I stopped watching The Boys after season 2 because I saw that it was going down, or it went down that rabbit hole. I knew where they were going. I knew what they were going to start pushing, and it's like, go fuck yourself. I mean, honestly, when they brought in the Yahtzee lady, it's I'm like, you really think I don't know exactly where you're going with this? Holy shit, man. But honestly, they say go watch something else. It's like, okay. And then when you start bitching that your ratings are sinking into the fucking toilet, oh, we like, or they like The Boys because it's edgy. It's edgy, sure. It's got the badass guy. What's his name? Fucking
Lord of the Rings guy
character. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got him, sure. But other than that, it's Yahtzee propaganda, essentially. Because honestly, that's the kind of people who are making the show. They love to say, oh, these people, or Trump is this, Trump is that. Yet Trump hasn't shown any sort of proof that he is that. You all forget we already had a Trump presidency. We've seen what he's all about. And yet you all continue to try to push this fear-mongering. It's just not working anymore. We've caught on to your bullshit. So yeah, we are going to watch something else. I honestly
But
have
Trump
no
is just
interest-
like Hitler. That's
well, he's worse than
it's
Hitler.
just like he's even worse because there's more Nazis now than there were World War II. That's what they tell us, right?
And you can look, we can debate the
Nazis
focus
because of it's the resurgence under the Democratic Party.
You can debate the focus of certain TV shows and what The Boys is doing and what it is, but this is no different than people loving Tony Soprano or Walter White or I mean, take your pick, Al Swearingen in Deadwood, or it's like there's so many things where people love a well-written character is what it comes down to, or reason to follow them, to believe in them. And as flawed as any of these characters are, there's also reasons to like them. Now, I haven't seen The Boys, so I can't comment on, I think his name's Homelander, the blonde guy or whatever. But like, whatever, dude. It's like people like characters for all sorts of reasons. It doesn't even mean that like that translates to the real world. One of my favorite characters of all time is Travis Bickle. Okay. Do you think it means that I endorse anything he does in that movie? Like take a girl to a porno theater for a first date? Like that's, you know what I mean? No, but it's like there's all sorts of reasons to identify or like a character or gravitate towards them. So that's that. I mean, we love bank robbers. I mean, this goes back to the Prohibition era, and that was real life. that wasn't a movie. That was like people cheering on real bank robbers shooting and killing government officials. So you know what I mean. Things in this goes back a long way in this country.
Yeah, and here's my thing. I was never a big fan of The Boys for this very reason. Like when I heard about the concept of the show, to me it just sounded like another one of these like deconstruction of the superhero like genre thing. It's like, hey, let's deconstruct superheroes. It's like, what if superheroes were actually pieces of garbage? And it's like, look, I'm not sold on like this whole idea. Like that may work for some people, and look, like I said, it is a popular show, so clearly it does. That's not my whole thing. I'm kind of sick and tired of like Seth Rogen's like nihilistic takes on like the entire world, especially from a guy who I have no respect for like whatsoever. So, it's not surprising to hear. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask real quick, what's the difference between this and Watchmen? It sounds like Watchmen. Watchmen is a satire of superheroes in the real world. So, is this just more of like a modern thing?
Well, because it's Seth Rogen. Because it's Seth Rogen, it probably has more degenerate sex scenes than Watchmen does. So I think that'll probably be like the only difference.
Well, I know people were laughing in the theater when Night Owl and Spectre were having sex. Yes, when they were having sex in the spaceship, they were laughing.
Yeah. The thing is, folks, in the chat, I mean, yes, there are bad characters that a lot of people do like. It's not about simply liking the bad character. It's liking the complexity of the character. It's not liking what they do, but their
style, how they do it.
Yeah, their style, how they do
carry
it.
themselves.
It's their personality. I mean, yeah, you're not so much identifying with the evil, but you're identifying with certain things that they do in the way I see it. Not the evil shit that they do, but in some ways, other things that they do, you know?
I mean, Rorschach is not I'm sorry, more like morally light character. He is a deeply complex gray, anti-hero. So I mean, even that character in Watchmen is very much like you're on the precipice of madness there, buddy.
He's black and white, or he's black and white in a gray world.
He's one step closer to the edge, and he's about to break.
I mean, that's why he allows himself to get killed, because he can't live in a world full of compromise. He doesn't like the fact that there's gray in between black and white. It's like you're either good or you're bad. There is no in the middle, because it just shouldn't work. Except that it's reality that it does exist.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's Hollywood's message now. I mean, this is where we're at. I mean, and they're getting upset now that people are listening to us. Like, you can only be told, hey, don't watch our stuff if you don't like it so many times, for people just completely tune out. And you wonder why you're not gaining an audience, you're just rapidly losing one. So it's no surprise.
Yeah, I don't know if they expect more people to fill in for the fans that leave. I'm reminded of when they had that drag queen on Doctor Who, and he or she said, oh, you know what, for everyone we'll lose, we'll gain 3 more who will be happy to see representation. That hasn't happened. You can't expect to draw in new audiences to a product that they didn't care about in the first place just because you have, quote, representation, any more than you're demanding that fans who've stuck with your show leave because they don't like the direction of the show. They're free to leave. There's other things here you can watch. Go watch something on Tubi.
Well, we have another, I guess, property to talk about that involves superheroes. Let's jump over to the Thunderbolts, because this is the MCU's next big movie. Now, to be fair, as of this moment, this is probably the least, what does the Karen say, problematic MCU film in development right now, because it hasn't been struck with like massive delays and reshoots, unlike Captain America 4 and Blade. So they're shooting this at the moment. However, there was a story that passed along this week that they're trying to downplay what's actually going on with Disney at the moment, where Disney is clearly losing millions to billions of dollars on all of these movies that they've been releasing over the last few years. It seems like they're almost routinely losing about 150 to 200 million dollars in every movie that they're released now. And the MCU has gotten to a point where the budgets are so overbloated that they have to start cutting back, because remember, the last MCU film, I believe, was the Captain Marvel movie, the Captain Marvel 2. And that was a movie that they spent almost $300 million production wise on, and it barely made $200 million. That was a massive loss. So as a result of this, they're now cutting back on a lot of these feature MCU films, which means that they're not spending $300 million on the CGI anymore. And this is pretty much what they confirmed here. This is from Fandom Wire. I'm putting this up here for a second. Saying that, here's how they're trying to spin it. Is they're trying to spin it by saying that Marvel is reportedly going back to its roots for the Florence Pugh led Thunderbolts film after recent flops. It's like, oh, now we're going to change our style just a little bit. And what they meant by changing their style is that we're not going to rely as much on CGI, which means that we're going to try to cut back on a lot of the superhero stuff that requires a lot of special effects and make it a more human story and make it a little bit more real. Actually build some practical sets and some practical stunts. It's a very, very let's just say roundabout way of saying our budget got cut. We don't have $250 million to spend on this one. So now we have to go back to, I guess, the fundamentals of actually making a movie rather than just putting a whole bunch of actors on a blue screen and then doing it all in post-production, because clearly that's not working. So this is a film with Florence Pugh, who I guess is the star of this movie officially. She played Black Widow's, like Scarlett Johansson's little sister in the Black Widow movie, and now I guess she's going to be one of the faces of whatever this team is going to be in the future.
Widow.
Yeah, the
She's
new
Dark
Widow. And I don't get that too, because like her character, isn't her alias like White Widow? So why would you have her be Black Widow when she has her own alias? But then again, we're making the Black Captain America movie, which has been reshot now 3 separate times. So I mean, why would anything make sense about what we're doing here?
You need representation. You need to have the Black Captain America.
They're both white. I was about to say, I thought she was talking about the Widow. It's like they're both white. Well, I mean, is Florence Pugh Jewish? I know Scarlett Johansson is Jewish, so maybe, I don't know. Is that representation?
Probably. Let's just go with the percentage.
Let's just assume and then be proven otherwise.
That's right.
That's pretty much
right.
That's the only safe way to go with Hollywood these days. Yeah. So they're claiming now that, oh no, the production of this movie is very well organized and very methodical. I don't mean that in a negative way, particularly on this film. They're very much focused on, frankly, the human story, believe it or not. They're trying to go back to their roots, as it were, and there's a lot of focus on that, which means that you guys cannot afford to reshoot this entire movie like every other film that's come out over the last, 3 years have been reshoot now. They're reportedly trying to stay away from expensive CGI, which is going to run up the budget for this film, which means that, the stunts that they're doing, like everywhere. In fact, I had to do a couple. It said they're going to do, like I said, practical stunts, practical effects. Well, really what this comes down to is that Disney has finally gotten that, hey, look, we're sick of losing money. So all these other projects, like, we're going to have to cut you away at this point. This is really what it comes down to. So I'm making this sound like this. I'm flying out to the air like Captain America or whatnot, but it's not. Just a very, very brief stunt. This is Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who, by the way, said something pretty stupid earlier this week about Jerry Seinfeld. That Seinfeld was saying that wokeness has killed comedy, and then she came out and said that, no, anytime someone says wokeness has killed comedy, that's a red flag. It's like, why would that be a red flag if it's the truth? Like, it's not even just Jerry Seinfeld. Like, literally every stand-up comedian has been saying this for at least 7 years now. So, but who are we to doubt the comedy prowess of Julia Louis-Dreyfus, right? Who was still in my worst movie of 2021, that Downfall. That was an absolute abomination. But yeah, that's we can talk about that later. But yeah, this is kind of where we're at now with this whole thing. So what's your thoughts? I'll start with you, Rick, because you're the MCU fan here. What is your thoughts on Disney finally cutting back on the budgets of these superhero movies?
Well, first, maybe they finally realize that they can't keep spending more and more on films that are not producing the returns that they expect. Second, my sense is that maybe Godzilla -1 winning Best Visual Effects over Guardians of the Galaxy, and them spending, what was it, 10 million for the whole film. I don't even know if 10 million was their visual effects budget, but 10 million, and having something better than the 200, 300 million that they've spent. Maybe that's given them pause for thought, and they're thinking, well, maybe maybe we don't have to spend so much. But really, this movie, I think they should just cancel the whole thing, only because are people that really interested in watching Thunderbolts? Like, are all these minor characters that great and that awesome that we really need to see these adventures of these characters.
Wait, are
that we
you
see
telling me
one or
you
two.
don't want to see a movie featuring female Ghost and female Taskmaster and that fat guy from the Black Widow movie and
Look,
it's
Julia
the
Louis-Dreyfus
MCU
and purple
Suicide
hair?
Squad.
First off, I keep thinking that this is a movie about those puppets on that British show, Thunderbirds. Thunderbirds are go. I keep confusing them. Thunderbolts, Thunderbirds. Yeah, tomato.
I think you may be the only one struggling with that one. If I'm being
Yes,
honest.
I also struggle with remembering the lights on with Destiny's on the radio, whatever that movie was that you so loved. I can never get the name right. But no, jokes aside, are these characters that important that people want to see? The same thing with Furiosa. We got a whole film about a character that's not I guess a major. I don't know if she's a major part of Fury Road, but not enough people cared to watch her story. Are we going to get many people to flock just because you stick Marvel on the title and say, "Oh, Thunderbolts"? Yeah, we're gonna go see Captain Russia and all these other characters that I have no idea who they are, and I really don't care. From movies that were 3-4 years ago. Who really is gonna be rushing to see this? This should go to Disney Plus. Really, this should just go to Disney Plus. There's no reason for it to be a theatrical film. All of these projects maybe should just be relegated to Disney Plus.
It's funny how Disney, in the course of, I mean, it's been going on a lot longer than 2 years, but you're really starting to see the fruits of it in the last 2 years. All of their brands, everything that they've been associated with, it's just burning down to the ground at rapid fashion. It's like the fire is spreading much faster than they anticipated, and they have no way of containing it at this point. They're Nerdigans. What's your take on kind of the MCU stake right now with the Thunderbolts?
They should just write it off. They should do what Warner Brothers has been doing, is just doing a big tax write-off on a lot of these projects, because they're probably going to lose more money than they would, get from a tax write-off at this point.
I mean, here's the problem. They could do that with this one, but this is probably the least. The Thunderbolts is probably the only project that, at least so far, doesn't have any major problems, because they're still trying to figure out what they're doing with Captain America 4. They're still reshooting that film. Blade is an absolute mess. Daredevil is an absolute mess. They're hoping and praying that this Deadpool movie somehow saves them, even though it's not going to at the end of the day. They have like at least 5 or 6 other projects that are all in bad shape. Even their next Avengers movie, which is still like 2 years away, they don't have a title.
At this point,
they don't have a title. They don't have a villain. They don't even have an Avengers team for there to be an Avengers movie. Like, they don't have. They're just trying to keep this name and this brand afloat, because they can't publicly admit that this is probably over, and it's been over for a while. Because if they admit that, then they're going to lose money on their stock price, and that's really what they're trying to hold on to.
It's been over since what? Endgame. For so many people, they thought that was just the end of the world's longest and most expensive soap opera, with the Spider-Man movie being the Christmas special. No,
the only MCU film since Endgame that's been a financial hit was the Spider-Man movie, the No Way Home. That's it.
Yeah, and that was not good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this real quick, that I again have no desire to see this movie. I have seen pretty much all of Florence Pugh's movies. I think she is a draw. I don't know if she's a draw in the MCU, but for cinephiles, for people who like good acting, I think Florence Pugh's really good even when she's in a shitty movie. I will say this though, I have still not seen Black Widow. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch this. And Harrison Ford, is he replacing William Hurt, who died like a couple years ago or last year?
Yes.
Okay. Who was the original Captain Ross in the Hulk movie? Remember from 2003?
William
Hurt.
Was it William? Okay, so did he reprise his role in the 20?
Yes.
What was that? Okay, that's kind of amazing, by the way. That different director, different productions, that he comes back as the same character. Anyway,
he was in the MCU, or he was MCU Ross.
Oh wait! Are you talking about the Ang Lee Hulk?
Yeah.
That's 2003.
Okay, no, I don't think William Hurt was in that one. He was in the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton as the Hulk, but I don't know who played.
It's okay. It's not important. It's just look. I would like to believe what they're saying, that, oh, hey, we're gonna pare things down, and we're gonna focus on character and story. And it's like, you don't have a track record of that. Even your best stuff is, Iron Man, whatever, Captain America, Winter Soldier. It's just like, I didn't necessarily feel that way. So, again, like all MCU things, I hope it fails. And please just die off soon so we can get on to other things being created in your stead.
I'll say this real quick for Maurice. I don't think that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 made a whole bunch of money. Like, it may have made a profit, but it was barely like anything considering the budget and the marketing that went into that. Like, and this has been the problem with Disney. This is why they're finally cutting back now. It's because they've gone so hard on the spending of these movies that every single movie that they release has to make at least $800 to $1 billion, $800 million to $1 billion just to break even before they get anywhere near profit. Because when they were greenlighting all these films, when Avengers Endgame came out, it was like, oh, Endgame just made $2.3 billion. It's like, oh, all of these MCU films are going to make massive amount of money, and now they're realizing that no, it's not. So
they thought the market was going to be inexhaustible for all of these films, and that all of us are going to be rushing. I mean, I can kind of understand, because there were all these people that in theaters for days watching every single Marvel movie up to Infinity War so they could see Endgame, and I thought they were insane. But I can see why they would maybe think this. But once again, once the what was it, Endgame finished, that was it. People said, okay, thank you. We got the conclusion to this long story that you've been planning for years. Once that happened, I don't know if there was any planning. There was no big buildup for future films. It's kind of just one here, one
they
there.
just thought this gravy train was going to be running forever, and then they found out.
I nearly triggered a riot at the theater when I watched Endgame, because as soon as the credits finished rolling and people started getting up and stuff, I said out loud, it's like, the movie wasn't that good. Everybody looked at me like a shot of baby. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of problems in that movie. It's entertaining, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of fucking problems in it.
Well, you weren't crying. I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, everyone's supposed to cry at Endgame and Infinity War. I mean,
well, like I said, there's the period joke that's in the movie. There's the freaking terrible writing that contradicts the rules. But as for the MCU right now cutting budget for Thunderbolts, these people aren't even part of the fucking Thunderbolts. Most of them, I mean, the Thunderbolts in the comics, Punisher, fucking Elektra, freaking Agent Venom, and Red Hulk. Those guys are freaking Thunderbolts. This group that they have in this, it's like, what the fuck? This reads more like Dark Avengers. I mean, honestly, I like the fact that they're getting a little smarter, but it's too late. You've destroyed any real interest there is in the MCU, because, well, one, you took Taskmaster and you fucked him up. I'm sorry, folks. I'm a Taskmaster fan. The only person who
Kevin
actually
Sullivan?
can defeat Taskmaster and say what?
I thought Jacob would appreciate that.
Oh. Well, anyway,
It's a wrestling reference. It's not important.
Yeah. The only
just
person
go
that
up
could
like
actually
Chris
beat
Benoit. He did some
Taskmaster.
things.
The only person that could actually beat Taskmaster that wasn't superpowered essentially was Deadpool, because he was so unpredictable. It's like you took a great character and you fucking made him a brain dead freaking lobotomized bitch. That's all you did.
Isn't Taskmaster a woman now in the MCU?
Yeah, she's a lobotomized bitch.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't fucking care anymore.
Well, my theory. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. I can't say anymore, really.
Well, I was going to say that my theory as to why we're getting all of these characters that not the original Thunderbolts is because they've already appeared in past MCU films, and so it's a way to continue the world's longest and most expensive soap opera. You won't need to introduce, was it Red Hulk or anyone like that, because you'd have to actually A, make a whole movie out of them, or B, actually include them somewhere. Since you've got Captain Soviet Union there, you can just put him in there. And you've got all these other people that, again, I wouldn't know who any of them were. I don't know their names. I don't care about their backstories, but they just can't let go. They can't let go.
Spencer's dream of seeing Asian Hulk on the big screen is never going to happen. This whole thing is completely cooked. I think it was one point I wanted to make real quick for.
There's something else I want to make to point I want to make too, because something that I've been noticing as well is next month, Suicide Squad Isekai is coming out, and I said from the start, the moment I saw like who was doing the writing and the character designs, I said, watch, that anime is going to save DC. And the more and more content that's been coming out for it, I've been seeing a lot of DC fans that aren't even anime fans getting really excited for it. And just watch. And it's going to be insane. That isekai anime is going to save DC, but it really looks like it. And Marvel is going to have to jump on that train at some point, where they're going to have to be like, okay, we might have to get on the anime train too at some point.
By the way, what are you dorks in the chat arguing? Are we arguing over the Thunderbolts movie? What are we doing? Anyway, Neil Zolkir asked the question, is the Blade movie with Marshall Ali, is that rumors about him walking out? That thing has been in developmental hell for like 5 years. And
hasn't he always walked out? He's walked
That's
out
the thing. Like, he's been publicly, or at least privately, upset about this film for at least the last 2 years. Then they said that he was going to be joining like Jurassic World or some other big movie, which pretty much means that this thing's either going to get delayed either further or just not come out at all. Just give up. Like, if you're not going to
do the tax write-off for that one at this point.
I say honestly, I don't even want to see like 70-year-old Wesley Snipes' Blade anymore. Just let it go. Like it's over. Like it's quite. Just tap out. Just like Benoit. Just tap out.
If Mahershala Ali is going to be in another Jurassic World movie, is he going to play Justice Smith's father?
Who gives a shit? Anyway,
what the fuck?
It's bad. It's just bad. But yeah, the moral of the story is that Disney's finally losing enough money for them to realize that this whole thing's going down the toilet. So, with that said,
down the Disney Movie Club.
With that said, we have one more thing to talk about. Let's talk about Will Smith trying to save his career. It's movie time. Yes, it's the Friday Tuesday movie club that we're doing here on the show, and this week we're talking about Bad Boys Ride or Die. So I told you guys I was reviewing this last week, but I'm not sure how many people actually watched this movie, and by people I mean Rick and Rob. So how many people actually saw Bad Boys before we did the show? And then the Nerdigans and Orange obviously did not go see this movie, but they can be our innocent bystanders because they know enough about Will Smith and Martin Lawrence to know what's going on here. Let's start this off with this.
Seen the first
one.
Why is this movie even happening? And also, Will Smith is. I've seen this on social media. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the interview that's making the rounds about like what Will Smith's favorite movies he's done, and it was like Pursuit of Happiness and I think it was Men in Black. He said, and everyone's been like debating that.
First of all, he only said that because of Jaden Smith, but I'll get to him in just a second. So here's the story. 2 years ago, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Academy Awards because Will Smith made a mild joke about his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, being bald. Like, that's literally all that it was. He had a meltdown, won an Oscar that night, but hasn't been in the good graces of Hollywood ever since. Now, unless you're talking with black women who still believe that Chris Rock deserved to be slapped for making a joke about Will Smith's wife, he needs good press. And that's the only reason why we're getting Bad Boys 4, because he needs it more than anyone else at the moment. So this is why Will Smith is doing another Bad Boys at the age of 56 now. Meanwhile, Martin Lawrence, who has not been looking great publicly over the last couple of years. People noted that he wasn't looking too good in the press junket for this. I guess they finally somewhat admitted that over the last several years, Martin Lawrence has been dealing with health issues regarding his blood pressure. He apparently has suffered a few strokes over the last couple of years too. Keep in mind, he's almost 60 years old. So both of these guys are way too old to be doing this action stuff. You can tell by watching this movie that clearly Martin Lawrence is a lot slower than he's been previously. He's not even physically in like most of the scenes that involve any kind of action like whatsoever. It's like you can tell that he probably needs to see his way out of this franchise. But if you don't have Martin Lawrence, you don't really have Bad Boys, and this is how we get Bad Boys Ride or Die, because I like I said, we don't have Michael Bay anymore. Michael Bay did the first two movies, and that's what everyone really likes out of the whole series, is the first two films. So we took him out of here. You have Will Smith, and his public persona has taken a shot. Martin Lawrence may or may not be on the verge of death. Who knows at this point? And this is where we're getting the start here for Bad Boys Ride or Die, aka Bad Boys 4. Let me just start off with that before we get into this movie here. I'll start with you, Rick. Physically, does this film even still work anymore? Both of these guys are pushing 60 at this point. So you have Will Smith still being like, the single bachelor, super playboy, like super cop down in Miami, even though he's pushing 60. I know not in this film. We'll talk about this here in a second. And then you have Martin Lawrence here, who isn't nearly as fast, skinny, or mobile as he was in the first film here. It's like, I know we just explained why we're doing this, but literally, why are we still doing Bad Boys movies at this point?
We're doing Bad Boy movies because they need the money, and they need I guess a hit movie. That's why we need a Bad Boys movie. In terms of health, I guess I should be slightly amused that Martin Lawrence, this character, could have a heart attack by doing the wobble. Like, that's literally what would kill him if he's trying to dance. And then I don't know,
and not even an extensive dance. He was basically like doing like the electric slide. That's really what it is, and he almost drops dead. And that just goes to show you like how bad his real physical health is. They literally had to write his health problems into the script. That's literally what they did.
Yeah. So we need it because audiences really enjoy the film series. I can say that they did when the theater went to, and look. I think Rob and I have seen only the first one, and I think it was on one of these,
Movie
Friday
night.
nights. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know if I'm the target audience. I'll try to do it by the target audience, but to answer your question, because they need money and everyone needs a hit. The production, Jerry Bruckheimer needs a hit, and Will Smith needs a hit, and a movie he can promote. Martin Lawrence, well, I guess he needs work. That's why.
And
Other characters that I have no idea who they are. And was it Joe Pantoliano needs to be in a movie as well?
yeah,
And
he's barely in this film too.
Yeah, and
Go
it's disappointing because I saw his name in the credits, and because I didn't see the second or third one, it's like he's not alive. He's
we also need DJ Khaled to live out some fantasy.
We'll talk about the cameos here in a second.
No, and I want to say this, like, I don't think Bad Boys Ride or Die or Bad Boys 4 is a good movie, but I think that there was more of a market and more of an audience for it than Furiosa, than Fall Guy, because I'm sorry, you just look at the hard numbers. This movie made $100 million this weekend. Now, it's not all domestic. I think it only made 56 domestic, but there was an audience for this. And that's the thing I will say about this movie, is that it did not alienate its audience. It did not push an audience away. It gave them what they wanted. Granted, you're absolutely right. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are dragging this movie along. They're like, hey, let's get another one done. Let's do everybody a favor. Martin needs a win. Will Smith needs a win. What was it? Jerry Bruckheimer Productions,
Yeah.
So just, I think that for the most part, it was successful in being basic entertainment for an audience that wanted to see that. And I agree with you. There's more people in this Bad Boys Thursday afternoon, the first showing at Regal for the week, than there was in my Furiosa showing.
Yeah.
And again, that's right. And I know it's a small sample size, pick one date in this theater in this area, but that at least played itself out over the weekend.
Well, if you recall, the last Bad Boys movie came out in 2020. I believe because of the pandemic, that was actually the highest grossing movie of the entire year. That year was Bad Boys. What was the name of that one? We'll figure it out later. Bad Boys for Life. Yeah, that was Bad Boys 3. And like I said, when I saw that movie, I thought to myself, was like, clearly, like, Martin is in the best shape. Like in that film, he looks better in this one than he did in that last film, but still not in the best shape. However, when you see the actual movie itself, it's like, okay, I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, it's clearly a cash grab, but there's worse cash grabs out there. Like, it's a pretty decent movie, as that's all you're looking forward to. And I have similar feelings about this movie, even though I don't think this movie was nearly as solid as the last one that we saw here. But the whole setup of this film, and the reason why we're doing this again, is because Mike Lowry, aka Will Smith's character, is finally getting married. So he's been the single playboy who has slept with all the women up to this point, but now out of nowhere he found some woman, and now he's getting married. So the opening of the scene is him driving with Marcus in a car. He has to stop and get like some kind of like Pepto or something like that because he's having stomach issues, but he can't eat any like sweets or candy or anything like that because he's not in the best health wise, just to put it that way. So there's this whole opening gag here, which I actually thought was pretty funny, despite the fact that they've done this gag numerous times before, where it's like, oh, someone just happens to try to like rob them, not knowing that they're cops, and then they start getting into an argument in front of them, and the next thing you know, one of them gets shot. Like, they've been doing this gag literally since the first Bad Boys movie, and we're just seeing this recycle here again. We get later on in the story, and Martin finally, Will Smith's character finally gets married. Everyone's dancing, and then all of a sudden, Martin Lawrence just completely like passes out, like in the middle of the theater, and it's like, oh, this is the big one, and he jumps into like a pool of, I guess, life or whatever the nonsense is, and that's where he sees Joe Perianto's character, who died in the last Bad Boys movie. Just in case you didn't realize, he got killed in the third one. And he tells them that, it's not your time and whatnot. So he wakes up in the hospital thinking to himself that, hey, I can't die. So, it's not our time, but hey, something's coming there, Will. And you're going to have to make a very, very tough decision here, like in the future. We're not going to tell you exactly what that decision is, but something is coming. A storm is coming, right? And then this is where we get to the plot of the movie. So the plot of this is basically Joe's character, the police chief, is being framed for being a cartel plant, and now he's not alive. He can't defend himself. It's up to Marcus and Mike to clear their captain's name. And of course, in order to do that, they have to find Will Smith's son. If you guys recall, in the last film, he, I guess, had a one-night stand with some Colombian drug cartel lady, and that's how he got this half biracial. It's like I believe the actor is like either like fully Hispanic or maybe he's biracial, but it's like he does not look like Will Smith's son like at all. Like even the one-nighter.
To be fair, I had this thought. I was like, Will Smith definitely has his like Just for Men like beard coloring in, and like,
yeah.
I just was like, hey, you can kind of like suspend disbelief and be like, hey, he's just looks like one of those like, Cuban or Dominican guys in the Major League Baseball. He looks black to me, but in all honesty, it's like this character's way too established to like be pulling that shit. That's where I was like, okay, so he has a kid, but his kid isn't black. I'm so confused.
They tried their damnness to not highlight the fact that both of these guys are basically in their 60s. Like they look like he just got like a fresh cut, like right as he like did like this whole scene here. It's like they were trying very, very hard to work around the obvious physical limitations of both of their characters at this point. But
yes,
like I said,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, of course, because the Mike Jr. was doing more action than his dad, and I figured that we learned this in Bad Boys 3 about his son and the captain being killed, but I kept saying the son looks nothing like his dad. It wasn't that I was confused. I was more like, I'm not accepting any of this as real.
Yes. So here's the funny thing, Leslie. We kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier here. Nerdigans mentioned that Will Smith recently did an interview where he said that his favorite movie of all time was the what was it? The one he did with Jaden Smith.
Pursuit of Happiness. He did.
Oh, you mean
with Jaden Smith, didn't he?
Yeah, too. And After Earth was the one that destroyed his career, but the first time. But so he's been trying so desperately to pass on his legacy to Jaden, and there was a time period there where like in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where they were clearly trying to move forward with Jaden being like the next big Hollywood star, which is why he did After Earth in the first place. The problem is that Jaden Smith can't act, and then as time progressed, everyone got exposed to the fact that he's also a massive weirdo, just like his daughter. So his daughter tried to have a music career, that didn't work out. His son tried to have an acting career, that didn't work out. His kids are complete weirdos, and he's married to a person who makes him absolutely miserable, right? So he just realized, got to a point where it's like, my legacy pretty much dies with me. Like there's no one to pass the torch down to like at this point. And this is why he's been so butthurt by that. But that's the only reason why he picked that film as his favorite film, is because he worked with his son in that movie, and it's the only one that didn't get completely lambasted, unlike After Earth, which I should say this. I mean, look, if you wanted your son to be a major action star, maybe don't get M. Night Shyamalan to write his first major film. Maybe that's probably something you should.
Well, and Pursuit of Happiness also, I think, got some kind of award consideration. I don't remember.
It did.
He was not. He was nominated for Best Actor. Will Smith.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, he shouldn't have won for King Richard. It was just a terrible performance. A terrible.
It's just not great. But that's the whole thing. By the way, I guess the other Hispanic woman who's in this film, who plays like the police chief or whatnot, I didn't realize till after the fact that was the same woman who was in that terrible Resident Evil Netflix series that apparently some people on YouTube don't like, that I didn't write a good review about it. But and it was just very, very funny to me how she's basically like in this movie, quite literally trying to make people forget that she was in that absolutely atrocious Netflix Resident Evil film. Probably one of the worst things that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, you want to talk about completely damaging the legacy of the thing that it's based off on. That one pretty did a good job of it. The problem is Jaden Smith has none of the charisma of Will Smith, and Will's back in the 90s was a very charismatic guy. Like he's not like. I don't know what happened there. I mean, look, I think we all know what happened there, because Will. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Will let Jada raise his kids, and that turned out to be a drastic error on his part as a parent, and now he's paying for that as we go on here. But and that's kind of the whole point. I mean, there's another thing we talk about, these secondary characters, because obviously this film lives and dies on Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, but you have so many of these other characters. I don't know if they're trying to pass the torch or just trying to like take the load off of our two guys because they can't really do too much on screen anymore. So you got like Vanessa Hudgens, who's in this movie. She's back. She was in the third movie as kind of like the young group of I guess cops that they're training or whatnot. So she's back in here. Alexander Ludwig is back in this film. Like I mentioned, the Pomona girl, she's in here too. So they're definitely trying to spread out the workload with this film. But does anyone really care about any of these secondary characters that are in this movie? Does anyone really stand out to you guys?
I know Rhea Seehorn or whatever her name is from what is it, Better Call Saul? No, Better Call Saul. She's a good actress. She's given nothing to do here. I mean, she's the daughter of Joe Pantoliano, and she's, by the way,
march in there, scowl.
I want to point out there were two set pieces that remind me of Con Air and The Fugitive, because they had they pretty much had no plot, so they were just like, okay, we're gonna do these two set pieces because we can at least, people will be like, oh yeah, that's but it was very, very reminiscent of The Fugitive and of Con Air. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but yeah, none of the secondary characters really stand out. The villain, the reason I know the villain is that's Jacob Elordi's father in Euphoria. So that's literally why I know who that guy is. But yeah,
real quick, I knew he was the bad guy because he's the only other white guy that's in this movie. And it's like, he's clearly the bad guy. Like, they even tried to make it seem like, oh no, it's a big reveal that he turned out to be the villain in the film. It's like, I knew that the second I saw him. I was like, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Well,
what are we doing?
I'll give credit. I saw Vanessa Hudgens' name and I didn't know what role she played. So it's like, I kind of guessed, but I didn't.
She's the one sleeping with her partner.
Yes. I figured it out, and I was like, "Oh, look, Tiffany Haddish in this." And then,
yeah.
And then when I saw DJ Khaled listed on the credits, I'm going, "Why?" And then I guess he got to live out a little fantasy.
So not only are the police, the FBI, and every criminal, like in the Warriors, by the way, is after these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Because they think that he's running off with his son who killed a guy or something in the last movie. I don't know.
Yeah, he was like some big cartel guy in the last film, and I guess they're trying to shoehorn him into being the hero in this movie. But I was just gonna make a real quick point here. Will Smith is technically younger than Tom Cruise. Does Tom Cruise just have better doctors, or is he has better adrenochrome? It's like, well, what's going on here between
he's more connected. He's more connected with.
Oh wait. I have the answer. He's not married to Jada Pinkett Smith. That's why he looks way younger, even though he's
I was going to say Tom Cruise does more. Well, Tom Cruise is probably working out a lot more than Will Smith because he does his own stunts. But
yeah,
see, Tom Cruise has his own compound that he can try to lock you into. So that's another story altogether. With Katie Holmes having to leave that way. But yeah, no, he's just a different guy. So he has his own issues. And Will Smith has his own issues. So
Yeah, Tom Cruise is insane, but he's insane in a completely different way that Will Smith is insane.
But they're both Scientologists, though.
Yeah, I said they're both insane. I'm not saying that one's better than the other.
Will Smith is not, as far as we know, officially. Officially, he's not said that he is.
Officially.
He said some weird shit, though, too, man. Over the years, Will Smith, I don't know if I should feel sorry for him or if I shouldn't. Do you know what I mean at this point? Because it's he's been with Jada Pinkett Smith since the 90s, and he keeps the facade going, so I don't know.
The running joke on Twitter has been for years that it's apparently there was rumors that him and Margot Robbie were romantically linked for a couple of years when they were filming Focus and Suicide Squad, and everyone's basically been lambasting Will. It's you had a chance to be with prime Margot Robbie and you chose to stay with Jada. It's well, how big of an idiot can you possibly be? And it's kind of hard to feel sorry for him at a certain level, but I mean, it's just when a guy is clearly just so miserable, it's just as a human level, you just do feel bad for the guy. At a certain point, it's just
but there's that meme.
Chose the wrong one, buddy.
But there's that meme of Will Smith, the droopy eyed, looks like he's been crying for hours. That's how I think of Will Smith now. It's not Men in Black or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's that miserable,
he has to sit there and cry while his wife is talking about sleeping with their son's best friend. and try to pretend like he's completely okay with it. Like that's the Will Smith that we've all come to know here in the last few years. And it's absolutely destroyed his career and his reputation, just everything. His family has been his downfall, unfortunately.
It's not like the Will Smith. It's not like what we saw at like Coachella with Will Smith doing rapping at Coachella. That was so. That was just such a. It was so random. I didn't think that was ever going to happen. We would ever see Will Smith rapping again.
I mean, his wife is still romanticizing over Tupac, who's been dead for like almost 30 years. It's like, dude.
Imagine if Mark Wahlberg got up and started rapping. It would be like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
He takes his shirt off and then he's like doing like the pants sagging and starts doing good vibrations.
Oh my god! I was like, dude. I mean, we had obviously we had Will Smith, but who was it? We had Danny Elfman perform at Coachella a couple of years ago. That was amazing.
I mean, it could have. There's so many ways that his life could have turned out better. But I mean, hey, I guess he's still rich, so there's that. Even though you're miserable, so I mean, he's still got some advantages. But here later on in the film, so there's a scene where they're in a helicarrier because they're trying to send his son to a private location so they can go to like a CIA black site or whatnot. And then obviously it gets taken over by terrorists. They jump out of the plane, leaving Will Smith and Martin Lawrence there. And there's this hysterical scene where we're supposed to believe that any one of these two guys can still like fight people one-on-one as a plane is crashing like in midair. So they got Martin Lawrence like going around like this entire like massive plane, like he's on like one of these like amusement park rides, and you just thinking to yourself like, is it really worth it?
They're able to hold the cord that to prevent the cage from being sucked out of the airplane because they have that much strength to hold it down and stop the sun from falling off the airplane.
It's rough. It's rough. He looks rough, but I mean, in the context of, Bad Boys, this is what we have to do. We have to believe that, they would somehow find a way to, I guess, safely crash land the plane where they survive, and now they're just on the run. And yeah, they have to go up there in their $500 leather jackets here, and we have to go do the Bad Boys thing. And this is what I found funny. I'm pretty sure you guys realize this too. It's like literally every like 20 seconds, they're playing some variation of the Bad Boys theme, like in the background, like whether it's by like piano or guitar. It's like, okay, we understand the Bad Boys riff. You don't have to play it like every 3 seconds. Like, we get it, right? So this is where
it's a lot of hijinks. Like the thing when they get to the junkyard and they're stealing their clothes, the hillbillies' clothes, and then they have to be like do a Reba song. I actually thought it was kind of funny. I know I'm sure some people found it cringe or whatever. I actually thought it was kind of funny. And towards the end, the Bad Boys, I don't know if you want to call it a montage, but I actually, I thought it was fun. But yeah, it's like, okay, it's the fourth movie. We get it. We're running out of ideas. We're spinning our wheels. And Martin Lawrence, I will say this, Martin Lawrence is just chewing the scenery as hard and as much as he can. And I will say this, for a guy that's kind of out of it, I have to give him kudos. Because it's like,
that's all he can do.
Whatever his paycheck was for this, he fucking earned it. I will say that.
All I could think of when they're in that water park rescuing the people, and they're talking about the crocodile. All I could hear was that clicking, that clock from Peter Pan, where the crocodile, and I almost imagine him going doo 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 doo, starting to snap at all these people. Like, there, of course, you mentioned the largest crocodile in the world. Yeah, it's gonna come up in the movie. So it's like, jeez, like, why are you even telling me this?
I'll say this here too, and this is something that I found very interesting, because if you don't know Martin Lawrence and this part of the movie, he's still on this whole like I can't die. It's some weird like spiritual kick that goes in here, and this is something that Rob was just mentioning here. It's like there's certain bits in this movie that are funny, but I think they just go on just a little too long. It's like I have a hard time finding like the comedic timing here, like with the whole scene with like the rednecks, and they have to like, oh, go say like a Reba song. It's like, okay, after a couple of lines, like we kind of get it, like you've already had like the height of the joke, but they just like keep playing it out, and it seems like they're trying to riff as much as they possibly can, but the jokes just aren't landing the way that they used to because you're stretching it out like way too far here. And like I said, this is where we get to the cameos here. There was a lot of cameos in this movie. Tiffany Haddish is some, I guess, strip club owner. At one point, she shows up. She's kind of in and out. She's basically just playing Tiffany Haddish, like an over the top profane like character. No real difference there. DJ Khaled, who I believe was in the last movie, comes back for this one, only to get his ass kicked by Will Smith yet again. Michael Bay, who did not direct this film, hasn't directed the last two movies, has a brief cameo in this movie as well. So there was a lot of people who were in this film, and there was even like a few, I guess, like YouTubers and TikTokers who were in this film too that just had very subtle appearances. Like they're just like in the background. It was like, unless you knew exactly like who that dude was, like that thing goes like completely over your head. Especially if you see, in fact, this is aimed at Bad Boys fans who are watching these movies like 30 years ago. So they were clearly trying to dig some kind of a bridge here, or build some kind of bridge here with the younger audience. I'm not sure if it worked out as well as they would hope, but they definitely tried in this film.
Well, did having Mr. Fantastic in this movie, was that from the third one, or is that
what's his face? Ian
Griffin. Even Griffin.
Yeah. The guy from Horrible Bosses who pisses on people for money. Yeah. Exactly.
I just remember him from Mr. Fantastic. I just remember him from the Fantastic Four.
Right. The Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis. Yeah.
Yes.
Chris Evans. Yeah, Chris Evans before he became Captain America.
Yeah. Yep. I remember him from that. And I figured that he was part of the third film. I can't really remember. And all I kept thinking is, why is everyone so upset that some dead guy's getting framed? I mean,
it's Joey Pants. You do not disrespect Joe Pantoliano like that, okay? He class act.
Well, I don't care.
Okay, well,
clearly.
Learn a lesson. Jesus.
Oh, you're only sticking up for him because he's a paisan.
Well, he's in The Sopranos. No, he's in a bunch of shit.
I was literally about to bring up The Sopranos.
Memento. He's a great crooked cop in Memento. He's been in a bunch of shit, but
The Matrix.
Bad Boys he's kind of
Ready to Rumble. No one for radio.
And it's nice, I guess, that they managed to put in those scenes or those clips of him dying and Will Smith's lookalike son killing him. So I guess we wouldn't, we would the feels and think, oh, we missed the captain.
So you find out very quickly that the only reason why they gave Will Smith a wife in this film is that they needed someone to be kidnapped at the very end of the movie to justify the third act of the film. Like that's really the only reason why she even exists, because they could have ended this film at least 25 minutes earlier than they did, but of course, no, his wife gets kidnapped and it's like, oh, we gotta go do the Bad Boys thing, get our SWAT uniforms on there because that dude kidnapped my wife, which means that it's really real now. So now they're at like this like crocodile, like abandoned crocodile park where they have to like set up quote unquote the meat and all this stuff, and
they're on Discovery Island.
Mm-hmm. And I will say this here too, that there's one bit here where like Will Smith is kind of like losing it because everything's like collapsing around them, and then Martin just like slaps him, and then next thing you know, they're reciting like Run DMC's like Adidas or something like that, which is actually kind of a clever way that they set it up, and that's probably one of the best bits of the film. And this kind of just sums up my thoughts of the movie. It's not bad, like terrible. Like clearly we've seen far worse. If you guys watch my review for tomorrow, there's way worse out there. But I just feel kind of the same way that I did about the last film. It's like, it's good for a cash grab, but it's still a cash grab. So, I mean, it's not something you absolutely have to run out and see because it's the best movie of the year. It's a somewhat decent action movie, but it just doesn't go any further than that. And like I said, obviously our guys are a lot older and a lot slower than they were in the previous films, which you got to take into account here as well. But I mean, yeah, it is what it is. So,
Jacob, I'm surprised you didn't mention how this movie ended the way most films are ending now, with the picnic at the end, with family.
The family.
Yes. That's how it ends.
As a matter of fact, I should bring this up because I think we all agree that the best scene in this entire movie was the scene at the house with Reggie. So if you guys don't know about the Reggie character, he was the character in Bad Boys 2 who was trying to date Martin Lawrence's daughter. So there's this really like funny bit where it's like he comes over his house and like Martin and Will try to like intimidate him by like waving a gun up in his face and all this old stuff. So then they bring him back in Bad Boys 3, and obviously now he's married to his daughter, and in this film he's still kind of around, but it's like, okay, it's like, well, Reggie's supposed to be like in the military. It's like, is he ever going to do anything useful? They actually finally make him a useful character here because the bad guys kill squad are coming to take Martin's family, and it's literally just like a scene straight out of like Call of Duty where he basically like wipes out like 17 people like in a row. And it's actually a very funny callback towards the end of the movie where Will Smith and Martin are arguing about who's going to get the grill, and then Reggie's like standing behind them like with the chicken, and at first I'm like, yeah, get the fuck out of here, you're not grilling. And he's like, oh, he's not going away. It's like, you want to tell him to leave? It's like, that dude just killed 17 people in my house, like you tell him to leave. It's like, okay, I guess we're gonna leave now. And I actually thought that was pretty like entertaining the way that they set that up too. But I mean, like I said, there's bits here that definitely work. So I mean, I'm just kind of like in the middle about this. Like, what do you guys feel ultimately about Bad Boys?
I mean, there are a couple of things that I noticed, like the vehicle dying and them having to walk to the strip club, just like in Madam Web when the ambulance died and they had to get out, and it's just like, okay, come on, like really? Will Smith kind of confronting the FBI agent by walking right up to him, like, really, you're gonna like, and like I say almost slap because it's like you thought his next move was literally gonna be slap this guy because he's disrespecting his police captain who isn't there to defend himself. And so I mean, there's things like that where it's just like, okay, this is a silly movie that we're not supposed to get anything out of it. It's very basic entertainment. I mean, I can't say it's a good movie. It's not, but in terms of entertaining the audience and giving people kind of their money's worth, I actually felt like it did okay at that. But yeah, there's all sorts of storytelling problems and character issues. The family itself is kind of just like a tacked on detail, which I'm sure gets more attention in the movies that preceded it. You know what I mean? This was just kind of like, hey, let's go for one more run and see what we can get out of it. And hey, this movie is not in my top 10 worst of the year. That is saying something. So, yeah, I don't know if we're giving our final scores out or whatever, but I gave it a 2 out of 5. Technically, it's worse than Furiosa, and yet audiences liked it better. So what the hell, you know what I mean? Like, take it for what you will, but for what it is, I thought it was fine. I thought it was adequate. And I think for the most part, people got what they wanted.
I will say this before I go to Rick's vote. I'm giving the same thing I gave Furiosa. I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5. However, if you had to maybe pick between one of the two, I would much rather watch this movie again than Furiosa. And that's kind of just the general way that I feel about it. Like I said, it's hit or miss with a lot of the comedy. Some of the bits work out pretty well. Some of them go on a little too long. I think the characters that they tried to use to fill up the time, because like I said, there's only so much you can do with these two at this point of their lives, that I just don't really think that they really have much of an impact outside of Reggie, obviously. And like I said, I just think that this is a fairly decent cash grab movie. I mean, like I said, it's not trying to be anything, try to pretend like anything it's not. It's a cash grab. It's really what it is at the end of the day. But like I said, because people still have, I guess some kind of fanfare with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, still has an audience for it. So that's just basically what I feel about it. A very middle of the road film when it all comes down.
So did Will Smith's character have a panic attack or? Oh,
I got a quick question.
Whoa,
sorry. This movie didn't, compared to like a lot of the movies that are, getting sequels and rebooted, this movie didn't talk down to you or give you the message or anything, right? It was just straight up.
Nope, none of that. Yeah, none of that at all. Because as I said, I mean, the Will Smith needs this movie to be a hit. So he knows that Bad Boy still has a fan base out there. This is not a film where he can afford to do like stupid stuff and alienate his fan base and further destroy his career. So it's like they very much played this straight to your typical Bad Boy audience, put it that way. So yeah, none of that stuff is in there.
But Maurice, the reason why he asked him that, sorry, I need to answer this. The reason why he asked him, was this from Bad Boys 2 where he did this? if he's talking about that scene, Will Smith was pretending to be somebody who just got out of the freaking can or just got out of freaking jail. So yeah, guys like to make other guys their bitches. So yeah,
that was the implication in Bad Boys 2. By the way, and real quick, just want to answer a couple of Neil's questions. He says, "Do you think that Bad Boys should have ended with 2?" I mean, in all honesty, we didn't need another Bad Boys movie after 2. If they were going to do a Bad Boys 3, it probably should have come out somewhere in like 2007 rather than wait till 2020 to do another one. So yeah, that's kind of what I feel about it. And then the second question was, what would you rank Bad Boys Ride or Die over the other 3 films? In all honesty, if I'm being completely straight with you, this probably is still the worst out of the 4. Because like I said, I do think that the third one is a little bit better than this one. It had a far more serious tone than this one did. So, and it's not to say that this one, like I said, is terrible, but just compared to the other 4, it's still probably the worst of the 4. So, Rick, what did you think about this film?
Well, I probably would. I'm going to give it a 2.5. I can grudgingly respect that it knows its audience, and it certainly the audience what it was. I do remember the audience reacting to it like, oh, and like, oh wow, and all that, good for them. So I can't hate this movie. I mean, it's an acceptable film. It's not a great film, but I think people who follow the franchise will enjoy it. And I think even some people who don't follow the franchise will enjoy it. I certainly didn't hate it. I didn't think it's the best film I've seen. It is better than Argyle, but it's not, I mean, horrendous. It's not one of the worst. It's not certainly one of the best. It is better than Furiosa. I agree with you on that. So it's like a 2.5. I mean, it's serviceable. I'm not, but I did wonder again what DJ Khaled is doing in this. Like really,
because he was literally a cameo in the last movie, and they just brought him back.
I don't know. I honestly don't. I mean, I wouldn't know since I haven't seen any of the others except for the first. So everyone, I guess,
they're gonna bring back Tia Leone. Do you think she's gonna come back, or do you think she's out?
I have no idea who that is.
Tia Leone, David Duchovny's ex-wife.
The woman who was in the first Bad Boys movie you claim you just watched?
Yeah,
I didn't just watch it. I watched it a long time ago. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. No, I don't know. So, I mean, yeah, it was fine. It was fine.
Right, she wasn't in this one.
Madam Secretary,
Yeah, I remember.
You mean that
Will
Hillary
Smith,
Clinton?
I just wanted to point this out. Will Smith is having a panic attack at the end of this movie because, the bad guy is like being like, "I don't think your husband's up to the challenge," and like it's this really lame sort of setup, but it's just like, okay, I get it. He's dealing
and they
with
spend a lot of time. He spends a lot of time denying it
because he's a man, and men aren't supposed to deal with their mental illness issues or something. I don't know.
Well,
they're clear problems
because he's a fucking beta male.
I don't know. I mean, I've had a panic attack, and it's not the most fun thing in the world. But
get over it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking, everybody.
Walk
I have anxiety, so yeah.
Yeah, you hear that, nerd against walk off your panic attacks. It's like a man.
Do that though.
We've all had panic attacks, folks. I have actually had one too, and they're not fun.
They can be crippling.
They're not. I have
Yeah.
general anxiety disorder, so I if it wasn't for my antidepressant, I would have them constantly.
But again, there's nothing wrong with having that. But really, did we really need to see Martin Lawrence as behind? Do we really need to see that?
No,
sure,
no, not at all. But speaking of panic attack and anxiety and general unhappiness, let's go back to the one moment in Will Smith's life that he actually was happy when he was with Margot Robbie and not Jada Pinkett Smith. Remember this?
And I was the worst looking. All right.
You were the worst looking.
Okay. The only reason that you're saying that is because you know I slept with your mother.
Yeah, well, she didn't even bother to call you back. She thought your nickname was Big Willie, but turns out
Ouch.
she felt so misled by that nickname. I almost like your outfit today as much as I like your outfit in the Getting Jiggy with It video.
The Egyptian part,
When
probably.
you dressed
Yeah.
as a pharaoh.
As a pharaoh.
For no apparent reason. In that video. You look like a less hot version of Obama. You're like Obama, but not as hot.
I don't think he's got any more, Scott.
No,
but we should stop it here normally. But Margot is on an
You
absolute
have-
roll, so let's keep going.
The face of a 20-year-old, but the hearing of a 90-year-old. Should I say that again, but louder? Did you get that, Will?
Margot Robbie is definitely the winner of Playground.
What a fumble for our boy Will. The last time he was ever happy, and it didn't even come from his wife. He said, "Can we have the Will Smith back? The one that's not miserable?" Yeah, I don't know if that dude's ever coming back. Unfortunately, that's just the way that it rolls.
Well, he's got his illegitimate Oscar, so
The only way that you are going to get Will Smith to be happy again, you're gonna have to fucking kidnap him and keep him away from his wife for like 5 years, hypnotize the motherfucker to convince him that he was never married to that bitch, and then also hypnotize him to forget his kids because they're abominations of nature that think that they're something else, even though they're male and female.
you make it sound like he has to be deprogrammed.
Yes, he essentially does, because the man has been programmed to be a basic bitch.
Well, with that said, Will Smith's basic bitchness, I guess this would be a good time to sign off here for tonight. So I'm going to shoot it over to you guys so that you guys can tell everyone about the stuff that you're doing on whatever platforms that you are. And let's go ahead and get the worst out of the way. Let's start with Rick. What do you got coming up?
Well, I've almost finished my Omen retrospective. I'm still waiting to see when I get to see the first Omen, and maybe I'll start another retrospective on, I don't know, something else. Just more reviews. I just reviewed Hitman, and I'll probably review Anyone But You, which is also on Netflix. So I might dive more into more Netflix productions. And other than that, just more reviews and hopefully finishing out the Omen retrospective. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, then, Rob, what you got coming up?
Yeah, so June is kind of a decent month for movies, hopefully. I've been at least excited for The Bike Riders and Horizon, which are coming out later this month. And then Hitman, Richard Linklater's movie that's on Netflix now. I definitely recommend going to seeing that. I think it's one of the better movies that has come out this year. I have my top 100 Westerns that I am releasing probably in a week on my Twitter. So just kind of keep an eye on that if you're interested in that. Also, I just have a bunch of reviews, like 8 or 9 that I need to get out, including Dune Part 2 and Arthur the King and pretty much everything else I've seen in theaters this year. So I will be getting those out here. But I don't know. I will get them out when they're done. I'm starting a new job soon, so just more excuses to not get out content. So, but as always, just follow me on my Twitter for updates and when those things come out.
All right, then. Orange, what you got coming up?
Well, it is for the month of June, trilogy thoughts for theme streams. I just gave my thoughts earlier on the Equalizer trilogy. Good shit from Anton Fuqua and Denzel Washington. Not this week, but next week I am doing the ones and twos and the singles with Mara on Jade Shadow's channel for ones and twos with Jurassic Park. Exclusively on X, I will be doing Thursday night with the singles for The Saint with Val Kilmer. And the next week after that will be Ghost in the Darkness with Val Kilmer. The reason why I'm doing them exclusively on X and no longer doing singles on YouTube is because YouTube literally created a rule just to freaking cancel my streams. So, yeah, fuck them. Other than that, I have Orange Hat Uncensored on Fridays, late at night. And Sundays are the weekly recaps where I go over important things like sometimes if there's any Alec Baldwin stuff, because that stuff does tend to be important. Yeah, other than that, I'm just on here on Tuesday nights. Yeah.
All right. The greatest Dragon Age fan on the entire internet, our good buddy Nerdigans. What do you got coming up?
I cover anime and manga on my YouTube channel, Nerdigans Inc. And yesterday I did a Summer Game Fest podcast on Bounding into Comics YouTube channel with Jacob and Cider. And tomorrow I'm going to be on 01 to talk even more about that. And you can also find me on Twitter right there, where I am combating insanity constantly, especially over the past 48 hours. And I'm also going to be looking for more content to write for Bounding, specifically anime and manga content to write for Bounding. I sent a couple of things over there for Spencer to look at. So, and then I'll be back here on Tuesday, or I'll try to be at least back here on Tuesday.
All right, then. Letting you guys know what we got coming up. Tomorrow night, I'll be on 01 with Nerdigan, Cider, Spencer, and maybe Josh. We'll talk about a lot of things that are going on. We'll talk about the gaming awards. This is movie news. I should have an article up on Bounding tomorrow as well, and a couple other things that we got coming up. So I got a lot of content. Obviously, the review is going to be up on the YouTube side, so go check that out as well. If you did not check out our Sunday episode of The Bible Lens, go check that out, because that was probably the most eye-opening episode that we've done since the Islam episodes, and it really just goes on to talk about how the nature and the origin of a lot of this LGBTQ stuff you guys are seeing right now came from a demon god that the Bible warns about. So if you've heard of Isis or Anana or Ishtar or Ashtaroth, go check out last Sunday's episode. This coming Sunday, which will be the next time I'll be on here, we're going to talk about essentially why so many people in the LGBTQ community are drawn to satanic worship and satanic ideologies. We'll talk about that on Sunday. I should have a couple of movie things coming out here soon. I know I still have to edit up that retro wave from a couple of weeks back. I just haven't had the time to put it together, but I will put that out, so you guys should see those episodes coming out in the next few days. So stay patient. I am working on that too. And then that's about all that I can think of right now. By the way, if you did catch us on Friday night, go back and watch our Friday night movie show. We talked about our best and worst films of the entire year so far this year. That's everything that's been put out there. To everyone who joined us here on tonight's show, quick little rundown: Neozoic, Leslie, Top Dog, Maurice, Dilbafett, Spencer, Eddie, DK, Rooftop Korean, Vanya, Dante, Kenny, Alex, Henry, all of you good folks who have joined us here tonight. Thank you for joining us for another Tuesday night. We will see you guys on Sunday. If not, we'll see you guys next Tuesday here on the show. It is time to end things on an abrupt fashion. So good night, adios, goodbye, outro.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out! You get the hell out!
Never mind who you thought I was. I'm Rick James, bitch.